Chapter 1. As the clock struck 11:55 p.m., there was a quiet but urgent knock at the window. Devlin had been awake already, staring intensely at the obituary of his friend Bren. He had never forgiven himself. The more people told him it wasn't his fault, the guiltier he felt. Another knock. Whoever it was wouldn't wait long before breaking the glass from frustration. Devlin stole himself away from his brooding. He arrived at the window leading to the fire escape, opening up for another young man to slide inside. "It's cold AF outside, man. You got me waiting?" The other young man wore a white and black mask with a matching sweater and sweatpants. Devlin held his red and golden mask tight in his hand. Bren's obituary was hidden in the other hand alongside the tears he buried in his chest. Devlin pulled on the mask, pushing his friend aside and climbing outside, not before tossing the obituary aside as discreetly as possible. The window would be their doorway back. "You good, man?" his friend pressed. Devlin nodded, knowing exactly where they would be going tonight. He blamed himself, but if he was going to endure his guilt, others needed to face the same justice. They would have to live with Bren's death as much as he had to process it. Just another dead kid in a mask, they say. Another dead kid in his ego. Didn't your parents tell you to go to bed? It was your fault. Don't you have school in the morning? It was your fault. Devlin hadn't much to say as they ran. They climbed to the top of the building. His friend jumped in place, stretching out as Devlin looked over the edge. As comfortable as he had gotten, the height never felt the same after watching Bren fall to their death. It's all right. It would all be figured out soon. It's all right. It would all be figured out soon. Everyone will face justice soon. At least he had help. Ready? His friend had Devlin's back, receiving only a curt nod. You sure? Devlin took off running. As he got to the edge, he leaped up, squatting down like a loading spring. Devlin launches into the night sky, outstretching his arms as if flying. He was tucking his head and rolling along his shoulders to spring onto his feet, practically flying to the next rooftop. He looked back to see his friend round at his heels. The pair rushed up, sprinting across the rooftops, and then vaulting to the next building. It felt lonely without Bren by their side. They wouldn't be the only ones missing friends tonight. The two stopped on a rooftop, suddenly catching all of Devlin's attention as he fled the roof and hopped onto the fire escape. He stood on the railing, then jumped across the alleyway to the next building's fire escape, rushing down to the third floor as a man possessed. "We're here," Devlin determined, sniffing the air to the pungent odor of crack cooking from the open window. "You sure?" his friend insists. Devlin tosses himself inside the open window. He wraps his legs around the unsuspecting man's neck. Devlin's hurricanrana threw the man to the floor. Devlin nipped up to his feet, pouncing on the man, unaware of the other men in the room reacting to rescue their friend. Devlin's friend came right in the nick of time, chop blocking the third enemy, forcing them all to trip over the mound of bodies. The two boys were on their asses in no time, stomping and punching the men in army fatigues relentlessly until one remained conscious. He crawled away from the boys slowly. "What should we do with him?" Devlin's friend asked. "Throw him off the roof." Devlin had already decided long before they arrived. You're the kid from last week," the man cried, clutching his knee. "I'm Zenith," Devlin growls, delivering a blow his father taught him. A solid blow to the throat, followed by one to the nose. Devlin's opponent was left choking on his blood and spit. His friend watched in horror as Devlin turned his attention to the other men, who gathered themselves watching their friend die. Who's next? Devlin waved them forward to try him. The men shook their heads, surrendering and falling to their knees with their hands raised. "Where's your boss?" Devlin's friend took command, shuffling Devlin back, who seemed to have gone crazy. "Harbor. The harbor. They're expecting a shipment. We're done, man. We're out of the game. We quit after last week," the man cried out, reaching for his friend. "Damn, he's dead." The friend checked his pulse. Devlin was fuming, unnerved by how things divulged. Now they were acting as if Devlin was the bad guy, which was unacceptable. Devlin laid into the two men, punching and kicking them until his friend pulled him off, throwing Devlin across the room listlessly. Devlin took a pause, heaving as he analyzed his friend. Move, Devlin demands. Chill. His friend Chris stood his ground. Move, Devlin screams. You got your pound of flesh. 1-1. We're even. Brett is avenged. Let's go. This isn't over. Devlin barks as they retreat to the rooftops, heading a distance away before stopping to think. Devlin paced the rooftop a mile away from the crime scene. His partner watched as the cars and people flooded the area. Kids en masse ran across the rooftops peering below, passing by the pair. No one suspected the two of anything more than being another pair of onlookers. To their knowledge, no one knew a thing other than them and the two men in the room. Whoever the hell they were, likely of no significance at all. For Devlin, it was another night. It had been quite a while since his friend ran the rooftops, busy with school and work. From Devlin, the rooftops became a lifestyle. He was too tired to be bothered with the school outside of his fascination with sports. His friend was athletic, was focused on college, as Devlin should have been. Justice wouldn't wait. You good? His friend finally broke the silence. I'm fine. Devlin shrugged. You're gonna act like we didn't just catch a body? Well, I caught a body. Added to the scorecard. What? Bro, what the fuck? I'm shaking right now. You're fine with it? Look, those were the fuckers that chasing me and Brett down that night. And they're boys. I know where they're at too. Come with me. Nah, man, I'm done for the night. You said you would help me. Z, you told me Brett fell. No one threw her, and no one pushed her. You said she was scared and lost her balance, and she fell. His friend clarified the details in his mind. She was scared because they were chasing and shooting at us, Devlin accused. Chasing her or chasing you? He asked. Devlin balled his fist and turned his back on his friend. Look, bro, if you're a chicken pussy, then go home. Bryn is telling me to get revenge. Bryn, or the devil whispering in your ear again. Fuck you, dude. Devlin spins, leaping at his friend, but he catches him and tosses him off. The two childhood friends faced off. They were staring into one another's masks. They no longer recognized the other without their masks. To take the mask they had worn for years off would be like seeing a stranger. They'd changed so much over the years. Soon Devlin would be alone in Exega with Brent dead, and his last friend leaving for school 1,000 miles away. Devlin stared at his shoes. I guess I should get used to being alone, college boy. I'll help you. His friend relents to his guilt and mourning. The block is hot, bro. The next spot is near the border of Graham and Exego. You up for the jog? Gotta be if I'm gonna keep your crazy ass from dying tonight. Let me die, bro. You go home. Devlin stared at his sneakers, clenching his fist. I can't do that. Let's roll out then, before you leave me for Urdu. Devlin extends his hand. We can go home together, man. I've been going to therapy to help with Brendan's death. I recommend it, bro. It could help you work through a lot. His friend suggests. Devlin stared down at the edge of the building and shook his head. I'm fine. Famous last words. His friend let out a rueful sigh before they began trotting to the following location to exact Devlin's machinations of revenge. Graham was the southwest district of Nadia. Traveling through Graham could take one directly to Maya. The older generations referred to the area as Grand Bath, in honor of Bat, the guardian of water, who created all the waterways through Gaia. Graham is the central port where all the world's waterways meet and diverge as the Tigris crosses the Euphrates. Exego sat in the southeast of Nadia. Traveling through Exego would take one to Esha, even by foot the only pathway other than traveling through Maya. The gatekeepers represented in Nadia by the Cree family mafia and the regulated regime military controlled the harbor district that once connected Nadia to the world. The natives believe this has destroyed their economy, but has given great wealth to the enemies of Nadia. Zelapena sat in the center of Nadia, where the ancient ruins and temples were found. Few had ever seen such a sight, believing it not to exist, and through the ruins is Nadia's oldest port city. It's unknown but to those who may live there whether or not it's inhabited. The Nadians have been forbidden from learning their history. Regulated regime guards block the ruins. Nadine bordered Naka, the lush farmlands of Nadia, a salted river away from Naka's Tartarus, an unlivable land caused by the Guardian of Fire. Graham bordered the neighboring region of Maya. In comparison, Exigo shared a border with the opposing Earth Kingdom of Urdu and the neutral air region of Esha. The boys traveled by a stone pillar to the other side of their continent. Maya sent food and financial aid to Nadia to honor thousands of years of peace between the regions. Urdu sent soldiers, made new laws, and expanded their borders until they decided half of Exigo was the territory of Urdu. Military checkpoints sat in the center of the city. Passing by on the street was difficult. Over the rooftops, different dangers were presented. Devlin leaped across the alleyway neighboring a military checkpoint. He felt a stinging pain in his neck, followed by another. Instead of gracefully rolling over his shoulder, he crashed, stumbling to gain his balance, his arms darting around for the assailant. "Halt in the name of the regulated regime," a hooded figure called down from the water tower, holding a rifle in his hands. "Hands up, bro," Devlin's friend raised. Yeah, Devlin muttered, knowing how the process went dealing with regulators. "You two are under arrest. There was a murder tonight, and we're detaining all suspects. 2 kids violated curfew while the entire district was under martial lockdown. You two seem pretty damn guilty to me." The hood spits, aiming its gun as Devlin breaks from the submission, breaking into a sprint. "Halt!" the hood warned as they changed their ammunition from non-lethal pellets into bullets. "Not today, Satan." Devlin's friend lifted his hands, creating a wall from the concrete brick, shielding them from the rapid fire of bullets. Devlin grabbed his friend by the arm, covering behind the maintenance shed atop the roof, leaning back inside the building. Moving into such concealed tight areas was dangerous, but with a rifle on the rooftop, continuing to free run across the buildings was fatal. Even Devlin had to stop and rethink their course of action. "Mask off. Let's fade out and pick up another night," his friend commanded. "You go. I'll make a break for it to give you cover." "God damn, Zenith, why are you so intent on dying?" His friend cursed, slamming his fist against the wooden door, knocking it right open. "It's unlocked." Devlin had it checked, too busy looking for an escape to reach the destination. "Let's go. We can't leave another witness. We might have to take that one out. The regulators have a database on all the different masks. If we run off, they'll track us down another night. We have to change our masks. We lose our entire identity and reputation. It'll be like starting all over again." Devlin ruminated on the last days starting as a mask and the difficulty of being respected. "You just killing people now. Anyone who stands in your way, huh?" His friend scoffed. "Look, they're killing masks and arresting boys like us to send to Urdu and Naka for prison daily. You're damn right. I'm taking them down as they take us out." "Who's that we took out?" "A few regs," Devlin muttered. "What? I thought your beef was with the mafia. Are you fighting the regulated regime now, man?" "Damn, this is fucked up, bro. They're looking for us right now," his friend rationalized. "Look, man, they're looking for me. Go home." Devlin waved him off, running without hesitation, dodging the bullets as if he had eyes in the back of his head. His friend pulled off his mask and stripped out his outfit, revealing a change of clothes underneath. Sweaty but inconspicuous, he hid out in the building until he caught his breath. He was leaving at the front door without anyone the wiser as he walked back home in the opposite direction of the divide, the nickname for Urdu regulated regime military checkpoints separating Exigo and Zilipina from Nadine and Graham. Some men haven't seen their family in years, fearful of being imprisoned by the seemingly random draft of the regulated regime army in their home. Devlin forged forward in his relentless pursuit of justice. Those 3 had been there, but there was a larger group. The kids started patrolling the rooftops to get revenge on the soldiers and cartel invading their homes. In turn, the hoods arrived, native Nadians working directly with the mafia or soldiers. Devlin didn't know who hired them, but he stalked them, knowing where they slept. Alone, Devlin didn't have to hold back at all. He didn't like using the powers in front of his friends. Many feared what his kind could do, as there weren't many left or imprisoned. The etherbenders that Urdu and Naka feared. The pure blood of old Ekru before any other region truly existed. Before the turmoil of the past century, the ether ruled Gaia. He didn't like using his powers in front of his friends because he barely had any control, but sometimes you need to let loose. Devlin crossed out of the physical realm, entering the ethereal plane. His brain couldn't shake the image of the warehouse, the harbor where they tried to ship off the kids, where he found Brendan and the others that night, where it all seemed to end and begin with all the unsolved murders and the crimes in Exego. The entirety of the district was blamed for whatever the Cree Mafia was doing at the harbor in the west, while the regulated regime invaded from the east, the line of scrimmage as a military outpost. Devlin broke through the ethereal film into the physical realm, gasping for air as if he had been holding his breath underwater. His head was dizzy as he stumbled to catch his balance. He looked up to see the warehouse a few blocks away. He needed a few minutes to gather his composure before he threw up his dinner inside his mask. He wished he had taken his friend's advice and returned another night. He was already ragged from the first hit. Now he felt exhausted down to his bones. Gasping for air and processing his thoughts, Devlin fell to his knee, looking ahead at the miles ahead of him and miles behind him home. Deciding to press forward was less exhausting than turning tail and returning later. Regardless, he would need to catch his breath if he hoped to continue. Chapter 2. Devlin's friend had to run for backup, knowing there was no stopping Devlin once he committed himself to the hunt. Instead, the friend was at the skate park where a legion of teenagers and college students hung out with their colorfully adorned masks on their faces. He was stopped immediately and questioned. "Yo, Badger, what's up?" One greeted the young man. "What's up, Titan? How's it?" Badger responded. "Well, I don't know. Frickin' regs are up our ass tonight. We're here to figure out what's going on. You know anything?" Titan stood a couple inches taller than Badger, wearing a regal blue mask with black trimming around the mouth and eyes. "Yeah," Badger sighed. "That's why I'm here. I need backup." "What's the gig?" Titan whistled. "Zenith needs us." "Zenith?" Titan sucks his teeth, shaking his head. "No wonder they're so riled up. What is that moron up to now?" "Well, he's really smart, but he's trying to get revenge for Summer Breeze," Badger explained. "Summer Breeze's dying was an accident. She fell, bro. We fall sometimes. It's the danger of the job. They were chased by the regs. Zenith blames them." "You ever ask why the regs are on their ass?" Titan let out a rueful sigh, gesturing with his neck for Badger to follow. "Where are we going?" "I'm taking you to the boss. You have a lot to answer for if you're vouching for Zenith." "She's threatened by the number 2 mask," Badger japes. "Threatened?" A girl's voice caught their attention. Badger turned as both men stood at attention as the 5'3" woman approached them wearing a butterfly mask. Badger gulped, looking away, wishing he could rewind time to take back his words. "Mariposa, ma'am." Titan saluted his queen. Badger bowed his head, hearing rumors of her aquakinetic abilities. She could turn the smallest amount of liquid into a weapon. Rumors spread she could even bloodbend. Mariposa stood as the number 1 mask, leading the kids to fight back against the regulators and mafia vying for totalitarian control of their home, claiming the return of the Guardian of Ether. Zenith thought it was all bullshit. Had he any leadership ability, he might have sat as number 1, but his ascension to number 2 was far more due to his dumb luck than any heroic will. Mariposa wanted the mask to be the heroes of the people. Zenith wanted to fight until he died or kill anyone who challenged him. Mariposa studied Badger's silence, deciding to grip his chin, looking over his mask and feeling how dap it became. "You are Zenith's best friend, right?" "Well, Summer Breeze was his best friend. I knew Breeze." "So, you two killed the regulator tonight?" "I didn't." "You know who did." "Why?" "Show him the regulator." Mariposa nods her head. A group of 10-year-olds in Halloween masks came giggling, carrying a hooded man, bound and gagged. Mariposa kicked the soldier over, placing her foot on the neck, staring Badger in the eyes. "Tell me, or this is you." "Come on, rule number 3, no snitching." "What are we, dogs now?" Badger accuses. Badger ranked number 100, hanging out with the ranked number 2 mask, killing regulators and snipers. "Snipers? Oh, that's the guy from earlier?" Badger muttered under his breath. "How did you find the sniper?" "We've been tracking you two since Zenith came to your house. Once word got out Zenith was running the rooftops, there were many eyes. a lot of witnesses, and only one opportunity to tell me the truth. He did some karate chop and killed the guy in 2 hits. I don't think he even knows his strength. After that, we hit the road. They alerted their entire platoon. Their platoon alerted the entire regime. Now Exego is under lockdown because of you 2 idiots. And you're more concerned with protecting that egomaniac than protecting these kids? What the hell, man? Don't you even know how Breeze died? Mariposa fumed, shoving Badger and daring him to strike her. She fell. Badger looked at the hog-tied soldier and fixed his eyes at Mariposa. You know that's crap. She went by the name Summer Breeze because she was one of the best damn parkour kids out here. She taught both of us how to run the rooftops to make any of this possible. If anyone would be sure-footed in the middle of a rainstorm on a rolling rail slapped in butter, it would have been Bren. And you believe it when Zenith, Mr. Murder and Mayhem, says she fell? He said they were being chased. Why? Mariposa inquires. I already told you, him and I aren't that close. You're lying. Tie this traitor up. Mariposa simply sighs and men begin reaching for Badger. Wait! Badger held out his hand, surrounded by mass, ready to leap at Mariposa's command. You're a detriment to the entirety of Nadia right now. You 2 killed a soldier. He was one of them and chasing them that night. He has a list of guys. He killed him on purpose, Badger. You must see that man. Titan sucks his teeth. I saw Brent's funeral. I saw why they had a closed captive attempting to identify the body. You think her boyfriend was going to stay idle after she was killed? Zenith's gonna kill you next, Titan warned. He sacrificed Brent to Nshishi, Mariposa sighed. What? Badger shook his head, remembering her body. She fell. He threw her off the roof when he was done, Titan confirmed. He was being chased by the regulator, but Rooftop Patrol saw him throw her. Now he's killing the witnesses, Mariposa explained. He framed me. Badger held his chest. The regulators are on high alert. That's pissing off the mafia, getting stopped and harassed by their blockades. They don't know who killed their guy. If we don't catch Zenith, then they're going to start killing citizens. We don't have the Guardian of Ether here to save us this time. We have to avert a crisis until he returns. Why do you have so much faith in Guardian of Ether? Badger asked. When I was younger, the regulator regime first invaded Nadia. We were in the Zilipena district in the northeast for the annual Grand Bazaar. Their army swarmed up. No one was prepared. We thought all hope was lost. And then this hidden man came and killed them all. So death is good. Why hate Zenith? Zenith kills for sport. The Guardian of Ether killed to protect us. Zenith's killings are putting us all at danger. He's a sociopathic serial killer. And we need to stop him, Badger. Please help us save Nadia and avenge Bren. Mariposa extends her hand to him. Badger backed up. You can't just expect him to believe all that at face value. Zenith would never do that to Bren. Believe what you want. You've given me all the information I needed. Be careful where you go tonight. We'll be watching you. Mariposa dismissed him. You aren't being serious right now. Badger looked at the people around him. You can take us to Zenith willingly, or we can watch your every move until he finds you. Mariposa shrugs, shooing Badger away with her hand. Wait, I know where he is. He's at the Grand Border, more than likely near the Mafia compound. He's hunting down everyone who had to do with Bren's death. I doubt he killed her. Who even told you that? Bren wanted to break up with Devlin. Devlin didn't, Titan explained. She told me they've been arguing lately. Badger rubbed his neck. Bren got accepted into Kismet. She was going to Esha. Now she's dead. Regardless of how you feel about Zenith's innocence, I need to question him for Breeze's death. Let's go. If we take enough people, we may be able to put a stop to the regulators in the area in Zenith. You didn't tell him, Titan asked. Tell me what? Mariposa, you want me to tell him, or me? Titan shrugged. Mariposa cleared her throat. Listen, everyone, let me have your attention. We are not to bother or engage with the regulators. Avoid them at all costs, because I'm brokering a peace deal with the next Lord Commissioner. Gasps and whispers overcame the children. The same people who were imprisoning us. The same people who killed our parents. Draco, a man wearing a dragon mask with large wings outstretched and outreach, floated down from the skies. with large wings outstretched in outrage, floated down from the skies. There's no way in hell I'm holding back. Then you need to take off your mask and go rogue. The fighting is senseless. Soon many of us are going to college. There'll be nothing left but high schoolers and their younger siblings. Do you want them fighting full adult xenophobes with guns and riot armor? Think about the future. There's a bigger fight than running the rooftops. I thought we would win, but their forces are too great, and they're bunkered in for the long haul. It's the only way to secure peace long term. For now, we capture Zenith and bring him back for questioning for the death of Summer Breeze. Mariposa announced. Badger understood Zenith being so secretive. With Mariposa controlling the mass, there was no way to get anyone else dumb enough to stand against her. Badger was a mass who held up his sigil to focus on school. Spent months away without knowing the dynamic. The perfect partner. Badger knew Mariposa from their days coming up together. He didn't know what she did to achieve such a high ranking amongst the current standing members. Zenith detested her, but Mariposa remained in control regardless of how he felt. You think you might want to hurry up before he's done slaughtering all the regs in the area? Badger takes point, heading off toward the direction he had left. Some would think moving in a larger group on the rooftops would be more dangerous. Instead, it allowed the stronger jumpers to cross first, while helping the less experienced mass get across while the veterans took the rear to ensure everyone got across. Mariposa, Draco, and Titan being the last to leave the post, deciding a direction from the higher vantage points and deciding the group's pacing while in a valley. Badger hadn't learned such formation, heading off on his own, waiting every so often for others to catch up before heading off again. He had an innate idea where Zenith had gone and needed to figure it out before anyone realized they were lost. Chapter 3. Devlin had donned the title of Zenith because he wanted to be the best mask. That was a couple of years ago after the Guardian of Ether saved them all, temporarily. The death of so many soldiers brought more death than martial law. When they began fighting against the invaders, they believed the fierce show of force would hold back the regime. There seemed to be an endless supply of weaponry, machines, and manpower from the east. Putting on a mask became a fight for his life. The Zenith, the most ferocious fighter against the regime and mafia, doing any and everything possible to bring them down, causing the reinforcements harsh treatment and screening mask in order to hunt down Zenith. There was little else to turn. It's hard to clear your name when you're guilty of your crimes. The crime of a young man fighting endlessly to defend his home from invaders, as if they all wanted to be invaded, as if the fighting was for null. He tried fighting so hard for others. Instead, they fought against him instead of acknowledging his talents. Now he fought for his friend. Tonight was for bread. Devlin regained his energy, resting unmasked in the park. He was a few blocks away from his target, waiting for the days of researching the schedule to come to fruition. It became clear the enemy was greater than anyone originally feared. For so long, the belief was that the regulators and mafia were at odds, even kayfabe enemies at war, yet only citizens suffered. The mass proved such a great threat they aligned from the very onset, boxing them all in to contain the mass. If a war broke out with the regulators, then the mafia would have every excuse to intensify their extortion, while the regs propagandize how big a threat the mass are to the common good. Yes, the common good of drug dealers and murderers. Devlin wanted to fight the world to save Nadia, but it was a useless battle. Even he knew that. Your friend isn't full of crap after all. Mariposa's heel clacked against the cobblestone pathways of the park, marching up to Zenith. How do you find me, Mariposa? Devlin sighed, pulling his mask over his face. Badger. Devlin nodded, unsurprised. I left the pack because I felt your energy level drop. Badger panicked, catching his breath. You can read my energy even when I'm cloaking? Devlin groaned. I'm far stronger than you think, Zenith. Badger stood tall, finally regaining his air. Are you threatening me? Zenith clenched his fist, prepared to fight. I don't need to threaten you, Mariposa cracked her neck. I'm busy. Go play hero with your friends. Zenith turned his back to her. You're not a hero anymore? Badger rubbed his neck. We've never saved anybody. Zenith stood up, stretching out. All we do is make things worse. All you do is make things worse. I don't want to get lost in your psychobabble, Zenith. I'm not here to join your weird cult of followers or your crusade. I'm here to put you down for killing Summer Breeze, Mariposa declared. I would usually laugh at you challenging to fight me. Don't ever talk to me about Bryn again, Rose. Don't pretend as if you knew her at all. Devlin warned from under the mask. I care about every person who's brave enough to wear a mask and run the rooftops. I even cared about you. Mariposa leered into Devlin's soul. What makes you think I, of all people, killed Bren? Reports talk about you sacrificing her to Inshishi and then throwing her off the rooftop. Once the regulators caught you, you ran. They were chasing you, but only you, because Breeze was already dead. Badger applauded, revealing himself from his cover. Devlin stared at the two opponents. Perhaps one of them would have been easy, but both at once wouldn't be fun. Devlin's leg bounced with anticipation, waiting for the first attack, but neither moved. You're already geared up to fight us. You won't even deny it? Mariposa rolled her eyes, unsurprised. There's no response I could think of you to accusing me of Bren's death but to knock you out. Devlin grits his teeth, unable to contain his anger. If you attack Mariposa, I won't hold back on you. This is your only time to talk, Badger warns. You two can either come to help me or die right here, but I won't let you stop me. Zenith raised his guard, clenching his fist and darting toward Badger. Mariposa whirled her hands, instantly restraining him in all directions by his neck, arms, legs, using the rushing creek to hold Devlin down. Cheating, Devlin shouts. I've been waiting to get my hands on you, you stupid idiot. Do you realize you're the only one making everything worse? You killed a soldier tonight. The entire city's under lockdown. Innocent people are being detained and arrested because they're looking for you. We are turning you in, and we're ending this all right now. Mariposa enforces, freezing the water into solid ice shackles. Badger opened his arms wide, then slammed his hands shut, sealing Devlin in a concrete shell. Badger fell to a knee. Man, I'm out of practice. Still, you did good. Mariposa pats his back. I'll get the others. Stay here and hold them. Wait, I need your help, Badger shouted, but Mariposa was already gone. He can teleport. Badger released the cage, realizing Zenith had already escaped. His eyes darted in both directions, unsure whether he should pursue Zenith in hopes the others find him, or play it safe to rendezvous with Mariposa's squad. He could feel Zenith's energy surging. It wasn't in the park, but close by. Mariposa left melting pillars of ice in her wake as she searched for a unit. Badger tore at his hair, taking a deep breath and following his heart. Chapter 4. Mariposa had reunited with the pack of mass, leading them back to Badger. But when she returned, Badger was gone, chasing the suspicions and retribution for a good friend. Badger traced Zenith's energy to the docks where a firefight had already broken out. He could see Zenith zigzagging to evade gunfire, seizing upon his opponents fearlessly. Zenith moved ephemeral and formless, only at the last moment becoming material for a mere second before returning to the fade. Zenith fought as the ghost of vengeance until nothing was left but a small pond of blood and a panting, grieving, angry young man. Why? Badger confronted Zenith. Good question. Better question is, how did you find me, Badger? Zenith regained his energy and rage, shoving Badger away. Badger evaded Zenith, kicking his feet from under him and backpedaling with his guard up. I didn't mean to bring the entire pack on you. Mariposa was at the skate park. I was trying to get back up then. Then she told me you're the one who killed Bryn. So what? So you did it? She's only top mass because all of you have some sick crush on her and her big butt. I'm over it. I'm over serving under Mariposa and her bullshit ego trip. She's only trying to get rid of me because she's dating a regulator now. After that party, she switched sides. What party? Oh, you weren't there. Well, she showed her true colors that night. And that made her so popular. If she gets rid of me, then she has her two boy toys, Draco and Titan, chasing after her approval. The mass movement is dead, man. I'm going my own way. I told you that long before Mariposa took charge. You gonna focus on school now? Badger asked. Look, Chris, you're the smart one. You got more going for you. Both your parents love you. I'm not in your shoes. My parents work with fruits and vegetables. I'm not going to school. I'm not leaving Nadia. I'll be here until I die. And all I can hope is that I die fighting for something more than pesticide cancer. That I can die here fighting for justice, not some old farm never having lived. Your daddy issues are showing. Fuck you, Chris. Fuck you. You were supposed to go home. Devlin gritted his teeth, seething with rage. Did you kill Bryn? Well, will you know if I kill you? Devlin went formless. Chris raised the rock wall, backflipping back, closing his eyes and listening to the breathing, locking Devlin's feet in concrete, then evading his strike. So you did kill her. Chris armored his body in stone. I didn't kill her. Devlin shrieks, ripping his feet loose and rushing Chris. Chris threw his arm back, throwing a haymaker as a pillar of concrete sprouts from the ground, hitting Devlin into the shipping container behind. I didn't know you could do that. Devlin coughed up blood, still breathing though his body broke through the steel. I decided to leave the mass because I saw what you see now from the beginning. We can't save Nadia without education and money. We can go and come back, Chris reasoned. I told you, I'm never leaving Nadia. Devlin picked himself up, climbing out of the gaping hole in the shipping container. I see why you're the number 2 now. Chris backed up, unsure if he had anything in his arsenal to put Devlin down. Go home, Chris. Get out of here before the rest arrive. Go to school. Get out. Try your way, but don't ever get in my way again. Did you kill Bryn? Devlin sighed. It's selfish of me, really. It seems so easy to answer a question, to put your fears to rest. I do feel responsible for her death, but it wasn't my hands that took her. Mariposa wasn't there, but asked her to help me as I asked you. I found out about a shipment of heavy artillery they planned to use to take over Exigo and all of Nadia thereafter. I asked Mariposa to intervene, but she said we shouldn't risk lives to stop the war, so I went myself, but Bryn didn't let me go alone. She's good on the roof, but not in a fight. She got hurt. We had to run. I had to carry her. You know when you have new recruits and they're not used to jumping? And he tossed them to the next roof, Badger asked. For a frickin' mile. By the time she caught her wind, we were already being shot at by snipers. Pure adrenaline brought her back. But I got to see the summer breeze, dodging bullets, taking cover, rolling under HVAC shafts, and flying like the wind itself. They shot her in the back. She plummeted, and he saw her funeral. Devlin turned his back on Badger. I'll tell the others. Go home and stay out of my business, Chris. You might be older than me, but you're not my dad. You knew Bryn, not me. I get it. We're not really friends, but stop selling me out and calling to help it. I'm done with Mariposa, Draco, and Titan. The rest can have her. My true love is gone, and I have her memory with me. I'm sorry, man. Fuck you for doubting me, Zenith said before entering the fade and out of sight. Chris felt Devlin's energy fade to absolution further up the harbor. It was against the code to disobey an order from a high-ranking officer, yet the pack's energy was approaching at a breakneck pace, likely from their fight. In that instant, a glowing light, the reason Devlin dubbed himself Zenith. Ragnarok. The upper portion of the harbor lit up like Diwali, blinding Chris from a mile away, followed by a loud explosion and dreadful cries. And then Zenith was gone. Badger, what happened? Mariposa asked, viewing the pool of blood and the explosion ahead. Zenith said to stay out his way. Badger replied, Where is he? Mariposa looked around, covering her mouth as if about to vomit. Badger shrugged. I have no idea. If this is what we're doing from here on out, I'm going back into retirement. Good luck with Zenith. Not a bad idea, Mariposa sighed. I felt your presence watching us fight, so you heard everything. Mariposa nodded. I understand more, but I still told him not to go, and now she's dead. He's still responsible. He was the high-ranking mask. He was responsible for her life. Well, I guess he feels that way too. Badger shook his head. Go to college, Badger. We got it from here. Titan patted his shoulder. Thank you all. Badger wiped his eyes, taking a final glance at what the kid had become. To think Devlin's younger than all of us. Mariposa shook her head. Make you wonder what could have been if he didn't snap. Badger frowned. We need to clear the area before they report this. If we're here, then we take the fall. Zenith wants his position as number one, then he got it. If this is what he's going to do, then so be it. I hereby excommunicate Zenith. As my final act as leader, I name him number one. The first to take down Zenith takes his spot. Mariposa announces. Where are you going, Mariposa? Badger's the oldest of us all. Well, I took his advice a while back. I'm heading to college too. I'm not prepared to kill another mask. I'll figure out a better way, I promise. Mariposa hid her face from the blood, unable to process what came over Zenith, or where he even learned such techniques. I'm stepping up, Draco announced, hovering down from the rooftop, his wings strong enough to push them back a few inches as he landed. I'm next in line, Titan commands. Look here, little brother. If you want to fight me for it, we know how that ends. Draco grins, looking up a few inches at his younger brother. Titan headbutts Draco, and Draco meets it head on, trying to ram each other over with their foreheads. Badger shook his head, realizing Zenith's wisdom wisely. Here! They're all here! A frightened man in a silver suit announced. They're dead! They killed them! It was the mass! A regulator soldier screams at the top of his lungs. Protect the kids! Mariposa cries out her battle cry. Mariposa raised her arms, lifting the nearby ocean in a tidal wave. Mariposa raised her arms, lifting the ocean in a tidal wave, darting out the sky as the older mass fled with the younger mass in their arms and on their backs. The silver suits tried backpedaling, paralyzed in awe as the tsunami swallowed them whole. Draco, Titan, and Badger remained under a cave Badger created as Mariposa wipes out the entire approaching regulator army with one swipe of her hands. The three men stood in awe of the power vacuum they would have to replace with her absence and Zenith going rogue. From the rear, bullets rang out, and Badger lifted his hand, dropping the asphalt overhead, causing Draco and Titan to find new covers as he created a wall strong enough to block the bullets. Mariposa swirled the lake of water, flooding the harbor to Badger's wall. As Badger hears the rushing waters, he lowers his wall, elevating himself in a pillar of stone, then taking to the rooftops to escape, following Titan as Draco flies to the pack. Mariposa stayed, washing away Zenith's crime scene and freezing the remaining men alive. Leaving them to melt or die, she slowly sauntered the mile ahead. When she arrived at Zenith's next crime scene, she felt ashamed. Destruction. Nothing but blood, destruction, and gore in his wake as the entire regulator platoon remained slaughtered. There would be no smoothing this over, no talks of peace or explaining of excommunications. They were officially at war with the regulators and the mafia. As much as she needed to return to her real life, Rose couldn't abandon this fight. Rose took a picture of the damage, then fled the scene. Mariposa lowered her energy signature to nearly lifeless as she passively jumped the rooftops, replaying the image in her mind. She had felt assured Zenith was guilty. It was possible Zenith felt her power level and adapted a story accordingly. Mariposa felt as though she was abandoning the battlefield. Zenith was still out there on the warpath, and she fled to save her life. As she ventured to the northwest to her current residence in Nadine, bordering Naka, she could not forget the battle damaged by Zenith. Mariposa was willing to bet without question that they would have some time before the regulators and mafia mounted an offensive. Mariposa was willing to bet without question that they would have some time before the regulators and mafia mounted an offensive. If anything, Zenith's damage would scare them, keeping a retaliation at bay, but soon. Soon they would mount their offensive, plan their retaliation, and go after them all relentlessly. For now, she would take the calm before the storm to focus on her studies and get ahead in her collegiate projects. When the time came to fight, she would be back on the front lines. She needed to find a new way to fight back and save her home. If either side gathered reinforcements from Naka or Urdu, there was little the mask could do, vilified by their own people. They were all they had left. There would need to be a miracle to save Nadia from its enemies. Mariposa returned to a mansion upon a lake with large trees encapsulating the home from its neighbors, with an acre of land between the homes. Mariposa felt followed, but as she approached the front door, the energy signature disappeared, likely feeling the immense power from beneath the home. She slipped around the back, distorting which home she would enter, maneuvering through the homegrown woods from the misanthropic owner. Through the woods, she quickly changed her clothes, entering from the lake and using her key to enter the back patio. The energy signature grew. She snuck a few snacks from the fridge, heated up her leftovers, and slipped upstairs with a bottle of fresh pomegranate juice, feeling safe as she held up under her secured shelter, praying the rest made it home safely as she ate her fried chicken with hot sauce and fried rice with soy sauce watching her favorite show. She found it a bit funny how the homeowner's energy signature was so strong it cloaked her own effortlessly. As much as she wanted to ask the guardian of ether for help, if he intervened, there would be no saving anyone. She had to solve it herself. Zenith had been home, sitting on his rooftop, drinking a fresh cola out of a glass bottle. His mask lifted up to his nose, revealing the peach fuzz sprouting on his shin. He entered through the rooftop, unaware of the eyes watching him, some from admiration and others from the shadows of the alley in disdain. A man in a silver suit found their man. Chapter 5. We must act tonight. A huge wall of a man slams his granite tabletop, shouting at a tall, skinny man cleaning at his ears. The men he's killed had families. They deserve justice. Justice or revenge? The man asks, smoothing out his silver suit, leaning back at his desk and ignoring the multiple phones ringing about his ear. Both, there's no difference. This boy, this Zenith, he's a menace that must be stopped. Boys like him grow worse, like that Prince of Nadia. You must kill them young or throw them in a cell. Pal, have you ever been in one of those knocking prisons? The skinny man asked. Of course not. I am a man of honor. Desmond Powell adjusts his tie, standing tall and proud. Yeah, the underboss of the Godfather. The most cunning and manipulative man I know and have ever heard of in my life. You have honor? The skinny man nearly fell out of his chair from laughter. How dare you? Of course. So much honor you'll kill a kid. The skinny man tossed out a folder. Yes. Desmond Powell poured through the dossier. Powell dropped it on the table and sat down in his chair, bending under his weight as he bridged his thumbs and looked down at the floor. He's only 15. The Godfather revealed. Such power. Imagine if we had him on our side. Have a daughter his age. Get this kid, teach him the right way, show him the calm maybe. We could replace that so-called boy king trying to pry Nadia away from the gatekeepers. This kid wants to save Nadia. We make him the new Luno. The Godfather nodded. Colin would be quite interested in an etherbender. So few these days. Takes a lot of training and a lot of passion to unlock those powers. Kid probably just needs someone to talk to, honestly. Let's see if we can get him on our side, or, your plan. The Godfather smiled. You think Zenith, the number 2 mouse, will join the very mafia that he's been warring against? I think if we're going to put a bullet in every kid under 20 with a $2 mask on after 8 o'clock every night until we find this kid, well, then he shows up on his own volition. Put the word out. Until I sit down and have a dinner with Zenith, every kid with a mask gets as many bullets as it takes until we reach this kid. Go to his house in the morning, drag this kid out of bed, shake his ass up, and tell him Vincent Cree wants to have a chat. If he refuses, then we're handling this your way. Why not Mariposa? Word on the street she's directly in touch with the boy king with all those damn clubs. The regulators want him alive. If he gets involved, this gets messy. Keep him and her out of it. We got a good thing going with these mud people from Urdu. I'm surprised these cave dwellers are lasting so well in Nadia. Yeah, the boys want to all go home. The masks are up their ass and the prisons are so full with Nadians they can't even house real criminals. Imagine that. Vincent rubbed his chin. You feel bad? I made my decision. I follow in Shishi. I don't care what happens to Nadia. Vincent shrugs. Desmond smiled, agreeing fully. I see why your father-in-law was so keen on you. Gerald Knox hated my guts. Vincent spat at the flattery. Well, if I excuse myself, I'll send my best man to Zenith's residence post-haste. We'll solve this immediately. Let the men finish grieving. They lost their brothers today. The Godfather suggests. As soon as the rooster crows, I'll go myself and bring my best men. Desmond suggests. If you go yourself, you might die. The Godfather smirks. This is quite true. This is Zenith we're talking about. What do we know about this Don Cree? Desmond genuinely asked for guidance. Get his parents right. Well, deal with them first. Deal with them? Desmond asked, rubbing his chin. Yeah, well, use some tact and diplomacy. Vincent implores. On Zenith? On his parents, then they'll shove that little bastard over if they know what's good for them. The Don spins in his chair, overlooking the harbor and the immense ocean stretching out to the horizon for miles in view. I'll solve this, Vincent. Desmond stands. Just bring me the kid. The Godfather impresses on his right-hand man. I'll bring you whatever is left. Desmond growled, marching away. Vincent waited until Desmond left, turning back to his desk, picking up the picture of his deceased wife and his father, wondering how Gerald Knox ever trusted a man like Desmond Powell. Cree returned to his work of brokering deals for the gatekeepers, ensuring the groundwork for Anakan investors to buy up large portions of Nadia for dirt cheap, then to protect their investments by leveraging the regulator regime's growing world military. Once the Nakans seized a sizable foothold of Nadia, then little stood for them to overtake Nesha and Maya. What once seemed impossible could all be made inevitable if their syndicate took over Nadia. The boy king was at bay. Yet these little brats running around all night with school in the morning, these were killing off the seasoned veterans of the mafia. Once the Don had Zenith dead or in his employ, the mafia could bring the entire mass movement to the ground. And once he had Nadia, he could help Nshishi take over all of Gaia. Though, Vincent feared, what's next? The mass were the only thing distracting the regulator regime from wiping out the mafia. Without them focusing all their ammunition on killing kids, they would be actually solving the issues of crimes and drugs. The partnership was tenuous. If he got into Zenith's ear, maybe he could turn this kid off his docks and sick him on the real invaders. At least the Don grew up in Nadia, but these military dogs wanted world domination. Working with the regulator regimes might temporarily save his life. Gaining control over the mass can save his legacy. Chapter 6. A historic flower shop sits in the corner of the cobblestone block, owned by the Torhun family for generations, connected to acres of farmland across Nadine and Garam within the region of Nadia. The family served under Nadia's king Obata Sabera through his reign, until an earthquake consumed his home, the first earthquake in Nadia since Jaya was created. Many of the king's court had been arrested a decade ago, thrown into prisons across Naka to the west and Urdu to the east. When word got out, many went into hiding, starting quiet lives, meeting sparsely, and passing along the details of the meetings by word of mouth. 2 decades ago, Nadia was thriving under the fierce leadership. After the death of Obata Samir, the vacuum of power created chaos that seemingly destroyed Nadia overnight. While both the colonizing military and capitalistic mafia attempted their hands at full control. While both the colonizing military and capitalistic mafia attempted their hand at full control, the daughter of the Torhun patriarch married into the Brooks family, having one child with plans of more, spending their days tending their marvelous greenhouse, a handcrafted wonder of Nadia attracting guardian enthusiasts from across Gaia. Their farms had working co-ops for immigrants to find refuge and fair wages while acclimating to Nadia. Jordan Brooks was no longer a general serving his beloved Obata Samara. He was a father, a husband, and a warrior in a garden at peace. He hadn't expected the early morning visit of 3 men in silver suits. As they harassed his wife, he approached with a baseball bat, his eyes studying the men. "We're closed for the day. Get on your way, fellas." Jordan's deep voice captured the men's attention, allowing his wife to hide behind them. "We're here for your kid," the smallest of the suits noted, lighting a cigar. "Devlin isn't home," his wife nearly cries. You see, the problem is, we need to check." The suit shrugged, taking a deep inhale of his cigar. "You have 5 seconds to put that out before I break your hand," Jordan noted. "You see the nuts on this buck?" The small man laughed with his friends. Jordan's bat came down swiftly, nearly breaking the man's wrist clean off his hands, crushing the hundreds of tiny bones, piecing the hand together in one hit. The small man let out a deafening cry, screaming for his mother at the top of his lungs. "Oh, you son of a bitch! Oh, God, Mama! Mama, I see you, Mama!" The small man falls over, clutching his wrist, never feeling such immediate, blunt pain before in his life. The larger man rushed Jordan. Jordan sidestepped, shoving his bat into the first man's stomach, and then whacking him in the back of the head. While his back was turned, he heard the gunshots go off. "Shut the fuck up, you stupid bitch!" The small man stood over Megan Samaya Torhun Brooks with a smoking gun. Jordan lost his mind, snapping like a pen as he inhaled the giant breath of flame and burned the smaller man where he stood. When he turned his attention, the other 2 men had fled. Jordan dropped to his knees, clutching his wife, lifting her into the air and running up the street to the clinic a few blocks away. Chapter 7. Devlin returned home seeing 2 men in silver suits running past him on the street. He wondered why the mafia was in his neighborhood, too exhausted to stop them as he trudged home, too tired to even use the rooftops to sneak into his room. Devlin began by watering the plants in the front display. His mother wouldn't forgive him if he was late and forgot to water her precious flowers. At least he had one person besides Bren who loved him left in the world. The 16-year-old pushed open the door, finding the pool of blood on the floor. Oh no. Oh no. It made sense, but bodies, where were the bodies? A pile of ash on the floor. Devlin turned on his heels, rushing out the door. His body carried him to the best of its ability, finding the 2 men catching their breath a few blocks away. Devlin took in a deep breath of air, glaring at the 2 men. The fury in Devlin's body felt unnatural and unfamiliar. The rage seemed like a fire burning in his chest throughout his body until he felt a strong grip on his shoulder. "This isn't your fight." Jordan was sweaty, seeing Devlin rushing up the street and chasing after him. "Oh, great, it's you again." One of the men alerted the other to their guest. "You killed my wife." "These guys killed Mom?" Devlin growled as the anger completely took over his mind, remembering the pool of blood and his night of rage. "Devlin, stand down." Jordan intervened, stepping up to the first man. "What you got, old faggot? You couldn't even protect your wife. We'll kill your kid too and make you watch." Jordan dodged the gunfire, disappearing into a puff of smoke, then seizing upon the wounded man. Looking straight into the man's eyes, Jordan released a plume of fire at direct contact, melting his face and dropping him to the ground. He felt nothing. It changed nothing. The emptiness he felt grieving over his wife, turning to the other silver-suited man, pummeled him. Tears in his eyes as he buried his knuckles into any opening imaginable. "Mercy," he pleaded, crying on the ground. "You didn't give her mercy." "I didn't do that, and you know it," the man pleaded for his life. "Killing you won't change anything." Jordan let the man go, sobbing and turning his back as the wounded man attempted to breathe. I'm sorry about what happened. It wasn't supposed to go down like that. I'm sorry." The man huffed and puffed on his back. "How was it supposed to go down?" "We were looking for your kid," he pointed at Devlin. "Why?" Jordan asked, looking from the man to Devlin, remembering it briefly mentioned before they began fighting. "He's Zenith." Devlin hadn't any idea how he would react to the day his parents found out he was a mask, never preparing a speech or explanation. As Jordan stared at Devlin, not even recognizing the kid anymore, Devlin looked up at the rooftops to spot many people watching on in awe. Amongst them, Draco looked down upon Devlin from the highest rooftop before heading home. You're the reason your mother is dead. Jordan reached for Devlin, but Devlin evaded, knowing what would happen if he got caught. Jordan had tears in his eyes and grief in his soul as he looked at the boy he tried so hard to call son. He loved his mother more than anything, but damn it was hard. Devlin gasped for air, yet again caught in this web of death. Devlin stood his head, unable to accept yet again he killed the last person who truly loved him. Devlin covered his mouth, nearly passing out as he entered the fade and dropped himself off miles away. Devlin hit the gravel on the rooftop, choking back his tears as he hugs his knees to his chest, processing his day. Devlin stood up, feeling as if he could see his energy permeating his flesh. Red and orange consumed him until eventually it dropped to his knees. The energy had left him, and what remained was a tall man standing over 10 feet tall, staring into the horizon. You know what I see for the future of Nadia, my boy. The enormous man made of fire said so familiarly. Who are you? I see Gregor buildings, high-rise housing complexes, a mega mall, and parking. So much parking space you can melt on the tarmac. And you are the critical player of this vision. I need you to give me Nadia, my boy. I asked, who are you? Devlin rolled over, hurling a wave of ether energy at the larger opponent. You remind me of a guy I know. Hopefully you're far more reasonable. The man laughs as he tanks the attack. Wow. Devlin backed up, unsure if he was still tired, if he was facing the strongest opponent he's ever met. You really don't know who I am. The giant turned his back on Devlin, looking up at the sun, growing in size with the daylight. You're the guy who owns all our houses. Devlin gritted his teeth. Lord Patriarch Colin Maurice Gregor, yes, and soon I'll own all of Nadia and Urdu. With your help, the Gregor family will own the world. He turns with a bright smile. What do you want with me? Oh, well, Zenith, you are very important to all my plans, as you are destroying them. I kill you now, or I can mentor you, give you some guidance, take you under my wing, or paw, rather. Colin wrapped an arm around Devlin. Fuck off. Devlin shoved Colin away. Troubled, my boy. Colin asked, reappearing before Devlin. My mother's dead. My best friend's dead. And it's all my fault. Devlin's sobs finally breaking down. Colin rolls his eyes out of Devlin's view, taking a breath, wiping his hands clean of what he's had to do to bring this meeting together. Will all this bitching and moaning bring them back? Colin yawned. Devlin turned on his heels, charging at Colin in a spiral of ethereal energy, wrapping his arms around Colin and taking them both off the rooftop. What the hell are you doing, you crazy bastard? Colin shouted as he grabbed the fire stake, the metal bending and nearly pulling it from the building under their weight. Devlin climbed up his back, biting his hand, kicking and prying at Colin's face. You damn brat! Colin grabs Devlin's ankle and tosses him. Devlin wraps his body around Colin's arm, holding in an arm bar, cranking on Colin's shoulder socket to rip it out. All right, I said enough! Colin roars, jumping to the ground, slamming Devlin into the ground from 20 feet. Even that didn't make Devlin release his grip. The 2 brick buildings shake as Colin slaps Devlin against each wall in the alley, attempting to shake him loose. Colin finally tosses Devlin to the ground, clutching his own wounded arm and gritting his teeth. Colin looked up, suddenly feeling energy signatures stronger than Devlin's, and a large one stronger than the 3 combined. Look, you insolent pest. I'm not mentoring you, and I'm about ready to kill you. So let's make a deal. You have nothing I want. I have everything every man wants. I can give you anything. Bring back Bren and my mother. Colin sighed. 2 dead dames. I can find you a new mother and girlfriend. There are women aplenty in Gaia. Any woman you want. I want Bren and my mom back. Devlin picked himself up as if his body hadn't been imprinted into the buildings. You Nottingham kids are built differently. Colin whistles as Devlin charges him again. Colin deftly dodges and deflects Devlin's punches, kicks, and jumping attacks. Colin smiles, enjoying as Devlin fought for his life. Devlin's eyes bulge as a plume of flames grow at point-blank range. Devlin pivots on his back foot. Devlin darts between Colin's legs as the conflagration crashes, kicking Colin in the balls, then running away. "You son of a bitch!" Colin curses loud enough for Devlin to hear at the end of the alley. Typically, Devlin could have ignored the comment and recovered. Instead, the energy surrounded him again. He saw the orange and red aura flowing out of his skin, because his skin burned and felt cold as if putting on a sweater. Colin marched up to Devlin. The giant seemed to be growing bigger, his muscles enlarging, tearing the bespoke first press suit. Before Devlin stood a line, made a fire, taking up the entire alleyway, staring down upon the teenage boy. Devlin quivered, feeling the immense power paralyzing him. He couldn't move his legs or think. He fell to his knees from surrender or exhaustion. He didn't know. "I want Nadia. You are to treat with the Godfather, Vincent Cree. Fulfill his request, and then you will see your mother and girlfriend again." "You promise?" Devlin felt as though he wanted to cry at the promise of seeing Brent and his mother right now. "You'll be with them again, most certainly, I assure you. You'll have your mother and beloved back in your loving arms." And Shishi held out a massive fist the size of Devlin, holding out his lone pinky claw to shake, dwarfing Devlin. Why the hell would I walk into a meeting with Vincent Cree? That's a death wish. You see, Zenith, you could save all of Nadia today. If you join Vincent and I, we can truly give Nadia the life it deserves. Malls, parking, more money for knock-ins, and an end to this violence. The only reason the mafia and regulators are here is for my bidding. There's no need to fight the inevitable. Allow the Nadians to control their drugs and guns. We will focus on the business and trade of this region. Let the Nadians frolic and run free. We will own everything, and they will be happy. And Shishi promises. Devlin's face scrunched up, unsure what any of it meant. You'll make Nadia better? We'll make Nadia great again, my boy. Just trust me. Put your faith in Shishi. Have I ever steered you wrong? I never met you before today. Well, great, a clean slate, right? And Shishi encouraged, gesturing for Devlin to agree. What do I have to do for Vincent Cree? Who am I, Raquel? Peace. He wants peace. He wants to stop the mass and the regulators, stop attacking the mafia, and start focusing on the military. Okay, kid. That's simple. That's simple. Do you want to piss me off? Or do you want to follow your marching orders? And Shishi's voice boomed. Devlin used the claw to rise to his feet, feeling the flaming heat surge throughout his arm into his body. He let out a pained scream as the energy rushed into his body. Devlin screamed and cried, and like that, and Shishi, the Lord Patriarch, had disappeared from whence he came. He was feeding upon Devlin's anger and hatred for a while longer. Devlin stumbled until it felt like his body was moving all his own, running, catching into his jog, and then disappearing through the fade. He hadn't known what he did to summon such a spirit, but he could feel its presence watching him, studying to see if Devlin would listen or disobey. He felt the tether as if in any moment the beast could return. Devlin couldn't resist causing more damage, so he obeyed, taking himself straight to the mafia compound. Hey, you, hands up. A quivering silver suit held his gun on Devlin. I'm here to see your boss, Devlin muttered. Do I look stupid to you, kid? The silver suit guard jabs Devlin with the butt of his gun. Well, yeah, you do. Devlin gripped the guard's wrist, wrestling the gun from his hand, nearly breaking the silver suit's wrist. Whoa, Don Vincent Cree exploded from the front door. Drop the gun, buddy boy. Who are you supposed to be, a pimp? Devlin scrunched up his face at the man in the loud orange suit, sauntering down the esplanade of the compound. I'm your godfather. I'm all of Nadia's father. Don Vincent Cree, how are you? Vincent Cree's warm personality made Devlin lower his guard, relieved not to be in Colin's presence. So you're the deadbeat dad watching all his kids get murdered and arrested? Vincent nearly choked on his spit. Where the hell did you find this kid? His guard nursing his wrist shrugged. He just randomly showed up, boss. Your real boss contacted me. And Shishi. He told me to treat with you. Devlin felt a cold sweat mentioning the guardian of father's name. And Shishi. Vincent held his throat as if remembering his own traumatic memory. Then treat we shall. Come in. Come, you'll be my guest of honor today. Devlin uneasily followed, feeling as though he were abandoning Brett and his mother by even being at the compound. After all that's happened, he didn't know why he was going along with this farce. However, Colin's power felt concentrated. Growing stronger the deeper Devlin traveled. Sitting at the grand hall at the head of the table was Colin Gregor, and the largest man Devlin had ever seen, Desmond Powell, met with an Eshin man, a wrinkled Knockin man, and 2 girls Devlin's age. "Ha, you joined us," Colin announced with boisterous laughter, standing to his feet. Devlin quietly nodded. The group's collective power level dwarfed the entire mass movement. Perhaps Draco and Mariposa would contend with the lesser bodies here, but the 13-foot man in the handmade suit, they would need an army to fight Colin Gregor, or a miracle. This is Zenith, the current #1 mask. He's here to speak on behalf of the entire movement. The fate of Nadia is in his hands alone. No pressure, Devlin. Colin invited Devlin to sit with him and his daughter. Instead, Devlin lingered by the door, choosing a seat far away from the group, rather than amidst their arm's reach. His eyes drifted to the windows in the room and doors seeking an escape. I hereby commence this reading of the Order of the Sun Lotus. Colin clasped his hands. You believe this boy can give you Nadia? The wrinkled Knockin man asked, adjusting his glasses and studying Devlin closer. He isn't the king, but I've given him a portion of my guardian energy. Now he can harness the power of Luno and Shishi. Moreover, he's the #1 mask. They will follow his every word. When Zenith publicly submits to the mafia, everyone else will follow. Then we can repel Ray's efforts moving west on Urdu. We annex Nadia and take care of the regulated regime once and for all. Colin organized. I thought you were working with the regulated regime. Devlin interrupted. Colin's eyes twitched as he turned his attention to Devlin in a constrained, high-pitched tone. Oh, did you now? The men at the end of the table, some twice Devlin's age, shifted in their seats, their eyes switching to Colin in anticipation and dread. Colin took a deep breath as his daughter patted his hand, and he released a snort of smoke as a smile left his lips. You prey upon citizens and murder kids. We thought the mafia and the regs were partners, Devlin explained. We both desire the same thing. We both have a common enemy, and we both share the same ideology. But I want power. If the regime is successful, they utilize Nadia to take Maya and Naka, and soon even Usha. But Naka would be their first target. The Lord Commission will have sole rule over Nadia, and I will have to bend to his will. The regime will no longer need my funding. They'll be self-sufficient. And when the boy king comes into power, all of it will be his, and the gatekeepers will have no foothold left on Gaia. Evil will lose, good will win, and all of us will be very, very poor people. And you can prevent all of that from happening by simply bowing the knee and allowing us to take Nadia. Colin Gregor spoke without breathing, making Devlin regret even asking. If this guy can beat you, why should I do anything for you? Devlin challenged. Until he comes into power, we will make life hell for every last one of you and Nadia. Until we are in control. And we will make his coming to power impossible. We'll do everything it takes to keep the boy king from taking over Nadia. Desmond Powell's breathing was audible. Can you imagine there being an etherbender stronger than yourself? Colin's daughter asked. Her friend scoffed, rolling her eyes. There's nobody stronger than me, Devlin espoused. He's stronger than all of us, Colin muttered. Someone stronger than Shishi? Devlin asked. Yes, they all gathered in unison. We must stop him, Devlin said in awe of his response, covering his own mouth. The group smiled, pulling out a chair for Devlin and offering him a spot at their table. Devlin tried to comprehend the strongest people he's met, fearing someone even stronger. If they were bad, then this guy had to be worse. There was no sense in playing these games anymore, and risking more lives when a greater threat than the mafia or regulators existed to take over Nadia. We need to focus our efforts on finding the regime, and that's impossible with this kid pissing them off. We get rid of the regulators, then we get rid of the boy king, Vincent Cree decided. And that begins with you. Going on national television, unmasking, denouncing the mass movement, and submitting yourself to Mshishi. Colonizar grinned. Have this bring my mother and Bren back. Devlin tightened his fist. What? They asked confused. And Shishi said he would bring back my mother and Bren. How does this accomplish that at all? Devlin shouted, standing up at the table. My boy, everyone is here at the table because Nshishi had called on us and promised us our heart's greatest desire. When Nshishi's will is fulfilled, we will all receive our wish. The older Eshin man patiently folded his hands together. How long will it take? Devlin cleaned out his ears. Excuse me, Colin asked, clearing out his ears. I said, how long is this crap gonna take? Devlin demanded. You're lucky I don't break your neck right now, you runt. Colin stood, slamming his fist on the table. Yeah, threaten me again. Let's see how far you get with your plan. Devlin leaned back in his chair, folding his arms behind his head. The alternative is that we kill you now and let them see your body. The plan is for your safety. Colin walked to Desmond Powell and his daughter. You want to run the fade with me? Devlin dared. Desmond Powell held them back. He's too much for either of you. Colin stomped up to Devlin. Devlin kicked his chair in between them, narrowly making Colin stumble, but instead, the patriarch incinerated the chair to ash, pursuing Devlin. Devlin timed it, throwing another chair out the window, then chased after it. Devlin hadn't realized how high he had jumped with no platform to gather his thoughts or prepare a portal. Devlin caught his foot on the free-falling chair, with just a millisecond before it collapsed on the ground to kick off the chair and escape into the fade. Devlin found himself back into the alleyway he had met in Shishi, wasting no time as he ran to the skate park, hoping to find anyone who would listen. It was broad daylight. Everyone had been in school for hours already and hours more. Devlin awaited in the skate park in silent meditation, unable to respond to anyone who approached him. He didn't know what he expected. He didn't know what to do, but the mask recognized Zenith even maskless. You dared to show your face after last night? You quitting? Draco asked, sitting next to Devlin. Devlin looked next to him to see the Dragon Man still looking down upon him. Devlin nodded, looking for Mariposa, but did not see her. Instead, all he got was his rival. Draco was older, led more troops than Devlin, and stood for saving Nadia. Devlin could see no other solution but surrender to the order of the Sun Lotus. I saw the devil today, and the devil wants Nadia. Devlin responded cryptically. Why do you think we're fighting? To keep the devil out of Nadia. The devil is in Nadia right now. He's in the mafia compound right now, or was hours ago. He is in Nadia, and he wants it. The mafia plans to trick the regulators, and they're going to use us as the scapegoats. That's already what they're doing, Draco shrugged. Draco, we need to stop this. All of this. We all need to take off our masks, stop fighting, and keep these kids inside, Devlin pleaded. You sound like Mariposa. Draco rolled his eyes. If you wouldn't cower, Devlin, then leave us out of it. Kids around them began to gather. Anyone with brains in their head rather than their heads up their ass, follow me. I'll save your lives. Devlin shouted, believing himself to be the only way out. If you all go with Devlin, he'll lead you to your deaths. Mariposa excommunicated him before she retired, and she retired because this lunatic is a cold-blooded murderer, Draco shouted. Wearing these damn masks is going to get us all killed. We need to surrender. We need to let the regulators take over Nadia. Devlin pleaded. What? Blasphemy. Get out of here, Devlin. Get out before you undo all the work we've spent years building while you destroyed it. All you ever did was fuck things up and get in the way. Draco shoved Devlin to the floor. Devlin gathered himself. I'm going to the gymnasium. Anyone who wants to save Nadia, meet me there when you're done playing dress up with the lizard boy. I'll be the bigger man since you aren't a man at all. Draco rolled his eyes, turning his back on Devlin. Devlin swallowed his pride, running away and heading to the gym in the warehouses of Exigo. It had been some time since he had trained there himself. When he was a boy, Otis Earls and General Avalon trained the young men left in Nadia how to fight and defend themselves. No one ever suspected things would worsen so quickly. No one knew the devil was in Nadia planning its downfall while they fought the only force that could fight the devil. Only the regulators had the power to fight in Shishi. With its king dead, there was no one to replace his power, organization, and leadership. It's as if all of Nadia died when Obata Sumer took his last breath. Chapter 8. Jordan had to abandon looking for Devlin, returning to the clinic where he left his wife. It was near closing time. Devlin hadn't returned home, and his friends hadn't seen him, all but one. An older boy who came in the evening knocking on Devlin's window, shocked to find Jordan sitting in his son's room. Chris. Jordan was shocked. Mr. Brooks? Hey, how are you? Why didn't you come through the front door, boy? Jordan had a looming presence standing taller than the boy with a wider frame. Chris gulped, pulling the mask from over his head and rubbing his arm as he was confronted by his friend's father. Chris tried to excuse himself, but Jordan motioned for him to enter the room. Is Devlin here? No, I haven't seen Devlin since this morning. He came home for a moment, then he left. He hasn't been back since. Did you hear what happened? Jordan asked, rubbing his arm. A lot has happened, Mr. Brooks. Chris sighs, unsure where to start. My wife was murdered today. The mafia came here looking for Devlin, calling him Zenith, then shot my wife dead. The clinic declared it dead this evening. She fought, but damn it. Jordan punched a hole in the wall, choking back tears as he tried to figure out where his son had gone, trying to understand why his wife had to be killed. What was the message or point of the senseless act of murder? Well, last night we were, by the harbors. Devlin killed several of their men and then destroyed one of their warehouses. Well, destroyed is putting it rather lightly. He took down a couple regulators and has been hunting silver suits and dogs since Bryn died. Now, I imagine it'll get worse. I came here to talk him out of it, Chris confessed. How did it come to this, Chris? Jordan shook his head. It'll get worse before it gets better. The mafia and regulators want to rule over us, not help us. I guess I can't understand this from the regulators' perspective, but they must be fought. Chris felt convicted. This isn't how you fight them, Jordan shook his head. When we were building up Nadia, we didn't kill and attack each other. We focused on the problems, created solutions, and moved from there. We had our men patrolling the streets day and night, not running around, hiding and attacking, then running. I see the sentiment, and I've tried to ignore this masks business for so long, but I can't lose my son too. Chris felt strange. You want to come? Where? When you're ready, you won't ask. I have to go. Chris pulled his mask back down and slipped out the window quicker than a hiccup, gone within moments. Jordan considered ignoring it, but couldn't. He had to find his boy. He climbed down the rooftop, trailing Chris from a distance. His body struggled with running and jumping, wondering how the kid managed to move so swiftly across the 5 to 10 feet leaps from building to building. The more Jordan studied Chris's movements, he picked up on when to accelerate and when to take easy strides, when to push off at the last minute for the maximum force. It reminded him of training in the Samira's army. Chris disappeared and Jordan stood confused, wondering where the boy had gone. You did a pretty good job following me. I tried to take an easy route for you, Chris chuckled. Jordan bent over, huffing and puffing. You thought that was easy? Easier than this will be. I can't go back over there without getting wrapped up. And you have no mask. More people will come. We have to figure out what's going on in their meeting without revealing ourselves, Chris explained. I thought these were your friends. I left for a few months for college. When I came home, everything was so different. The regulators hadn't been here, and the mafia were the enemies. Now, everyone is fighting the regulators to the death. Why? Better to die free than live a slave. Chris quoted their modus operandi. Foolishness. Better to outlive your enemies than die before seeing the fruits of your labor. Jordan responded with the mindset that built Samira's kingdom in Nadia. Chris nodded in agreement. It doesn't look like Devlin's here. How can you tell? All the masks look the same. Jordan scratched his head. From far away, you can see Devlin's mask. He wanted his enemies to see him coming. It's bright orange and red. You know when you see Zenith. You could feel his presence. Chris said almost in adoration. My son. Jordan beamed with pride, with a creeping onset of guilt. He has enemies. That's an understatement. Zenith is public enemy number one now. I'm more than positive this meeting is about capturing him and turning him into the regulators. Chris sat eyeballing the meeting with youthful eyes, analyzing Draco and Titan before the group of teens and kids. I never knew training Devlin would turn into this here. Jordan shook his head. You're the one who trained Zenith to fight? Chris was impressed. Then that must mean you're even better. You can help us then. I can clear my name. Help capture my own son? He's not your son anymore. He's Zenith now. Chris's sullen tone was palpable through his mask. Chris's sullen tone was palpable though his mask hid his emotions. Chris's shoulders sunk as he turned away from the mask. I know where Devlin might be. It's a long shot, but I think I know. Jordan pats Chris on the back. Come on, let's head to the gym. The gym? Yes! He's probably hiding out there. We need to find him before anyone else. Chris lit up with excitement, so much that he ran off without considering how Jordan would follow. Jordan raised a hand as the teen launched himself in the air on a pillar of earth and ran off. Jordan spat on his hands, climbing up the stone pillar onto the rooftop, happy he and his wife went for a morning jog every day, returning this morning to tend the flowers and be killed by the mafia. The mafia was most certainly his enemy. He knew revenge wouldn't fix anything, but bringing down the entire Creek cartel would bring his soul peace. His leader, Obata Samara, had been a regulator man. Obata's father was the Lord Commissioner before being assassinated by Colin Gregor. Now a new Lord Commissioner took power, allegedly the same man who killed Obata. One earthquake in the history of Nadia and their crew. And only one man strong enough to do it. Ray Bradley Warren. Jordan had much to think about as he ran the rooftops alone. Felt himself adapting naturally to the pacing and having fun, dare you say it, rolling over his shoulders like some superhero in the night, flying momentarily in the sky to crash and fall, pick himself back up and keep going. Chris had long disappeared into the dark night sky, giving Jordan the solitude needed to conjure up his plan. It would be impossible to return to the simple life of a gardener without his wife. That was her world, and it eased his soul mourning over Obata Samara, who wanted his men to build, not destroy. Jordan tried so hard to build, so hard to be a farmer and gardener amidst a war raging in his homeland. Now his wife is a casualty. There's no way in heaven or hell King Samara would have been an ideal farmer. There's no way in heaven or hell King Samara would have been an idle farmer in the face of such injustice. He wouldn't scoff at the children fighting this war against the adults in their government. King Samara would train them and lead them to victory. Jordan couldn't fight the mafia alone, but if his son was as strong as Chris says, and there's an entire skate park filled with others of equal or lesser power, he could train Devlin to become Zenith. Jordan wondered what could be accomplished with the hundreds of kids he saw. Kids of all sizes radiating some powerful energy signatures, joking about and playing around with powers it took his men years to cultivate. Kids playing dress up and running around all night, likely exhausted all day. They needed organization. They needed a general. Avalon complained often about how his sons got roped up into this leading. Avalon complained often about his sons got Avalon complained often about how his sons got roped up into leading the movement. They were both still so young and knew nothing about the meaning. Perhaps his eldest had the mind to lead, without the will. More of a loner who wished to be off on his own than a team player like his youngest. He had no idea where his boys had gone, but Jordan believed he saw one of them with dragon wings. Was he seriously considering putting on a mask and getting revenge against his enemies? Maybe even revenge for his king. Chapter 9. Chris arrived at the harbor, one of the few privately owned ports left in Nadia, unfettered by the mafia's theft of property after Samira's death. The rest is occupied by the regulators. The trade to the region almost ceased due to the inability to use their ports. No one had the fighting force to beat both armies. The hope was for the two massive forces to destroy each other, but it wasn't happening anytime soon. Chris lifted the heavy metal grate, indicating the gym was closed. He needed to use earth kinesis to lift the grate himself. Inside he found Devlin wearing nothing but his boxer shorts, going crazy on the heavy bag, swiftly dodging and rolling around before landing decisive strikes without tearing open the bag. If Devlin felt Chris's presence, he didn't greet him or acknowledge it. Instead, Devlin stopped dodging around the bag and locked in, delivering heavy knees and elbow strikes, completely changing his style into a violent display of punishment. When the two made eye contact, Chris gulped. He didn't recognize Devlin without his mask anymore. Devlin's eyes are sullen as if he hadn't slept in weeks, his cheeks sunken as though he hadn't eaten, running off little more than his spirit energy and a ruthless determination to gain revenge. "I'm sorry to hear about your mother." Chris pulled off his mask, squeezing it tightly in his hand as he bowed his head. "Just another dead Nadian, right?" Devlin muttered unsympathetically. "Dude, it's your mother." Chris was shocked, almost disgusted by Devlin's response. "And who was she to you to care so much?" Devlin challenged. "Dude, what's up with you?" Chris asked. "You came here for a fight?" Devlin ignored his question. "I came here for my friend." Chris raised his hands. "Get lost, Chris." "I wish I could with how you're acting. I have to get you out of here. Everyone's looking for you, man. Regulators, mass, mafia. Everyone's Zenith. Either keep your mask off and fly straight or come with us." "Who is us?" "I brought your dad with me." "My dad?" Devlin growled, shoving Chris. "Stay out of my fucking life, Chris." "How, when you're the one disrupting the entire region? It's you, man. You're the reason the suits and dogs are racking up so many guns. They think it's every mask. They're killing kids dead and arresting every boy in a mask when they're looking for you. And only you the whole time, and you're here." "What? Getting ready for more?" Chris challenges. "I am tonight. We end this by going straight to the regulator base. That's suicide. It's revenge. The mafia killed your mother, Devlin." Devlin looked away. "I'm not working with the mafia." "I didn't say you were. Why would you even add that?" "I didn't add anything. I said I am not working with them." Devlin threw his hands up, marching away from Chris, trying to gather his thoughts. "Devlin, what's the matter, bro?" Chris reached out for Devlin. Devlin couldn't match Chris's stare, unable to make eye contact at all, his hand shaking as he looked up to Chris finally with burning red eyes. Chris's split second of action saved his life, lifting a wall of concrete from the floor and breaking Devlin's hand upon contact as Devlin manages to shatter the wall entirely. Chris scooted back on his butt and hands trying to escape Devlin. An aura surrounded Devlin, swallowing him whole, first burning orange-red, and then darkening into a dark blue and purple. All Chris could see beyond the burning energy around his old friend were the piercing red eyes, studying his movements for the next attack. "You should have left me alone, Chris. You had to be a good friend, huh? You had to show me everything that's wrong with me, right? Well, now you're dead, just like Bren. I'll bring you back too when this is all over." But right now, this voice is telling me, I need your blood to bring back Bren. Devlin's voice no longer sounded like his own, as if a darker spirit had been speaking through him. Not today, Nshishi. Chris shielded himself in a dome of concrete, tunneling out from below and escaping outside before Devlin shattered the dome. Chris could hear the beast growling within Devlin's roar. Releasing a blood-curdling roar, searing ethereal energy filled the tunnel. Chris burrowed for his life, finally reaching Nightbreak, throwing himself out mere milliseconds before a plume of ether energy followed him, nearly erasing his foot from existence. Chris ran for his life, seeking anyone for help, but on his trail was Devlin, running on all fours like a dog, growling and foaming at the mouth with red eyes as if he got down rabid. Jordan intervened, raising a wall of fire around him and Chris, standing before the beast possessing his son, matching its overwhelming gaze. Jordan didn't move an inch, facing off as if he had met the beast before and grew familiar with it, as if he had known all along. I wash over you in the blood of Nazir, and purify you in the name of Rakil. Jordan prays, making his son hiss and curse. Devlin's energy dies out completely, and he falls to his knees in fear. Devlin felt himself wondering where his power had gone. He was startled more when Jordan lifted him up in his arm, cradling Devlin in his arms and holding him close to his barrel chest, kissing his forehead. I love you so much, son. I'm so happy I found you. Jordan cried, squeezing Devlin. Devlin made eye contact with Chris. Jordan could not see the look of horror in Chris's face as Devlin threatened him with his eyes. Chris picked himself up, shaken, exhausted, and depleted of all energy. He put on a brave face as he watched Jordan set Devlin down. Be careful, Chris warns. Is everything all right? Jordan asked, taking his eyes off Devlin. Devlin scrambled to his feet, unable to summon the same energy as before, as if he had lost his moment. Jordan's prayer had halted the beast for now. Devlin could feel the energy scrambling inside him. It was painful, like a mountain climber stabbing into the stone, looking for anything to find a grip to avoid plummeting to its death. Devlin's mind is filled with endless thoughts, ideas, and accusations. He held his head as the demon sought anything to ignite the boy's anger and hatred. You two are running around as partners now? You don't want to be a mask with me, but you'll hang out with him, Devlin accuses. We were looking for you, son, Jordan reassures. He's your favorite now? Devlin asks, his voice no longer his own as Jordan looked into his son's eyes. Only black, soulless bees remained. Where have you been, Devlin? Jordan asked. I've been here and there, everywhere and nowhere. Whoever's with is what's important, but you'll find out soon. When our plan comes to fruition, it'll all be better. And you will all know who the true master is, not your pathetic Rakil. Jordan's voice was like a dog snapping and barking behind a cage. Reveal yourself, vile spirit, and release my son, Jordan demands. You failed as a father. You failed as a husband. You are useless, the voice attacked, trying to incite Jordan. I have failed, and I feel like absolute trash. I feel lower than the dirt on the ground. I feel like a roach squashed on the street. I've failed, but I will not fail you as a father, Jordan assures, unable to hide his tears, as the large 250-pound man fell to his knees in tears. I'm sorry I couldn't protect your mother. If you two want to make this up to me, then come with me, Devlin offers. No, Chris refuses immediately. What? Why? We finally found him. Take me, son. What do you want to show me? Jordan implores. Yes, you'll do nicely. The voice applauds, leading the way. Don't do this, Mr. Brooks, Chris pleads, but the two had gone, running off into the moonlight. Chris couldn't contact the other mass. He knew where they were headed. He couldn't keep the risk of another run-in pissing off Devlin, but he couldn't let a pedestrian become a bystander. Saying something about needing his blood to bring back Bren, hunting down men for sport, Devlin wasn't himself anymore. Chris followed from behind, trying to resist his intuition, screaming for him to call the other mass for backup. Soon they reached the edge of the city, a stretch of desert leading to a castle fortress hidden in the dust clouds. Chris had lost vision of the two, calling himself out until he saw the large shadow of wings overhead. Chris was joined by Titan and a fleet of mass squads numbering in the hundreds. Titan saw the horror etched on Chris's face, patting him on the shoulder to stand down. Devlin and Jordan had ventured into the sandstorm with promises of bringing back their mother and wife, chasing ghosts into the fortress. Jordan came to his senses. The charm of the spirit wore off as he witnessed the enormous castle, lined with snipers and turrets aimed at them. Though one could not see coming from the west, from the east, you could see the sandstorms moving north to south, giving a clear view of whoever approached. The regulators occupied the ancient castle of the Echo Royals. It disgusted Jordan, but his sense made him grab his son. Jordan ran for their lives, clutching Devlin, who approached as if in a trance. The gunmen fired all at once. Their ammo seemed infinite. All Jordan could think was to save his son. When Jordan came to his senses, he dropped Devlin before an army of masked teenagers, covered in his father's blood. Jordan heaved up on his knees, looking up to the sky. "Forgive me for failing you, Obata. Forgive me for my disbelief for so long, Rockhill." Jordan took his last breath, falling over from blood loss. Before anyone could address Devlin, steering from snapping back from his possession, the whirring of mechanized vehicles echoed in the background. Devlin smirked as all the mass scattered, running away from the regulator soldiers, arriving in their Humvees. Armored soldiers rushed out of the Humvees armed to the teeth, leading with their non-lethal gear. Sleeping darts, sleeping gas, and tear gas went onto the streets, rooftops, and roads, blocking up traffic as they aimed at anyone wearing a mask. Amidst the chaos, Draco and Badger watched Zenith. Draco waited for Devlin to save his father, to return the gesture, but Badger had already fled to attempt to retrieve the body. Draco dropped down to Badger, holding out a hand and sending a look that scared Chris more than Devlin ever could. If anyone could contend with Devlin now, it had to be Draco, because even if Jordan had the power to defeat Devlin, Chris knew he would never truly hurt his son. Zenith stood as Draco arrived, unsure whether to fight off the regulators or his brother in arms. Zenith held out his hands, flashing a bright light, blinding Draco long enough to escape. Draco was struck from the back by a beanbag gun, infuriating him rather than subduing him. He pulled the tranquilizer from his body in pain, falling to his knees from the drugs and sleeping gas, passing out defenseless. The regulators overlooked Jordan's corpse to pick up Draco, carrying off the teenagers wearing masks that they could catch, or laying unconscious or in a fit of seizures, coughs from the shock and gas. Chris blended his skin to match in with the walls, creeping alongside as not to be noticed, still a good 100 feet away from Jordan's body and the giant cloud of toxic gas. Suddenly, a tidal wave filled the streets from the north. Riding atop the wave was Mariposa, leaping in the air, back-tucking in the moonlit sky as the wave crashed on the legion of soldiers below. Mariposa was shocked to see Badger swimming against the current, holding a body of all things. She lifted Badger and herself out with bubbles rising into the air. Mariposa held off the approaching soldiers, using the wave to create shards of ice, taking down all the men approaching them. Fighting with tenacity, she witnessed from the Guardian of Ether the last time the regulators invaded, that only a small number of shards found their mark, piercing weak points within the armor. The grand majority only served to knock back the soldiers or failed entirely against their armor. Mariposa urged Badger with her eyes to help. Badger grabbed Mariposa and went underground, falling into the sewer below. Mariposa channeled another wave in an ice raft, rushing Badger and the body west to the free clinic in Graham, the only clinic to help mass without question. Mariposa and Badger climbed out of the manhole in the basement of the clinic, finding a wide open space unused by the clinicians. The sound of the manhole popping open from Badger's earth kinesis alerted the workers above. A woman came downstairs into the basement carrying a bat and a rat trap, creeping downstairs. "Friendly, friendly!" Badger shouted, raising his hands. "One of ours is wounded badly. I thought he died, but he's breathing." "What happened to him?" "He was shot." Mariposa observed the wounds herself, using her blood kinesis to force the bullets out of the body. "A lot." "No one's allowed to have guns in Nadia. How did he get shot?" the woman asked, kneeling by their side, observing the amount of lead Mariposa removed from the body. The three sat as if witnessing a miracle. There had been more bullets than body remaining as a pile of shells, rounds, and bullets the size of Jordan lay next to his body, still managing to carry back his son, still breathing, holding on for dear life as he sits up, screaming out in agony, then passing out from the sheer exhaustion as if Raquel himself had breathed life into his lungs. "Help me get him upstairs and stabilized," the woman demands as the two mass lift up Jordan, doing their best to get him upstairs, unable to focus on the agonizing groans and horrific yelps as they morbidly moved his body. His blood stained everything they wore, everything behind them until the woman injected him with morphine. For a few moments they didn't believe even that would work, yet Jordan's body relaxed, giving up its fight, willing itself into its final slumber. "Sometimes the body has a little life before it dies," the woman assures them. "His energy signature is still extremely powerful." Mariposa read it with her hands. "Who's the doctor here?" "You're not wearing scrubs or a white coat, so not you," Mariposa said defiantly. "I'm the only one working tonight, so I'm in charge, girlie," the nurse snaps. "Your badge says nurse's assistant," Mariposa accuses. "Do you want to save his life or argue?" the woman stomps. Relenting in her protest and excuse herself from the room, Badger stayed out the way, helping to remove Jordan's clothes, standing aside as the nurse cleaned the body and wounds, marveling as she began wrapping Jordan from his big toe. Hours had passed, and Badger watched on as the nurse mummified Jordan, the bandages all soaked through crimson red blood, causing her to restart, adding another 2 layers. There was little else she would imagine doing other than sedating him long enough for his wounds to heal, if they would ever heal. More so to the silence's agonizing screams every time he regained consciousness. The woman had forgotten Badger watched so quietly and observantly. "This is the same man who was here this morning with his wife. He brought me her body covered in blood. It looks like he found the people who killed his wife," the nurse assistant asked Badger. "He was chasing a ghost and got shot down by the regulators. We lost at least 30 brothers and sisters tonight. The boys they'll send to Akru. The girls they'll rape, then send to Naka. I must find a way to stop them, but I'm too scared," Badger confessed. "I won't let you go alone," Mariposa added, her voice checking in on the progress. "Where?" the nurse asks. "They deport everyone from the mafia harbors, seeing if anyone will switch sides before being sent away," Jordan uttered from under his bandages. The three covered their dropped jaws as the old man sat up on the operating table, stumbling to his feet. No one had the courage to touch him, believing him to be a reanimated corpse, and his likeness to a mummy was uncanny. Jordan dug his thumbs into his bandages and ripped out holes to see. He jabbed 2 fingers into his mouth to widen the breathing hole. Jordan stood hunched over, his chest rising and falling with each belabored breath, carrying himself to the door. "Mr. Brooks." Badger couldn't believe his eyes. "Let's go save your friends." Jordan dragged his body forward, carrying on as if nothing had happened tonight. The 3 filed out behind him, unable to resist the urge to following his unrelenting strength. Even Mariposa silenced herself, walking behind Jordan's dragging corpse to the mafia-occupied harbor. Sure enough, the Humvees were unloading wounded boys wearing tattered clothing and young girls stripped to their bras and panties. The boat in the distance had Gregor Corps insignia. A man larger than life awaited in the background, overseeing the deportation of young boys, as if looking for a specific boy, as if looking for Devlin from Badger's personal judgment. The 2 energies felt familiar yet different from the warehouse gym. Jordan disappeared from their eyes into a puff of smoke, reappearing across the harbor in a searing flame. Men's suits caught on fire, trying to escape the assail fire balls radiating from Jordan's body, his bandages blood-stained to crimson red. Badger and Mariposa used the cover to split up, searching the facility to find their compatriots. The nurse assistant was not idle, being the first to follow the children being let off the trucks. Mariposa had gone to cut off the boats, while Badger searched for the rest of the number he had saw taken away. "Hey, I found them!" The nurse unwittingly shouts. "Get her!" a regulator soldier demanded. "No, go for cover!" "No, go for cover!" a silver suit pleaded, running away. Chaos ensued as the boat turned upward. A giant block of ice stabbed through the bow of the ship, skewering it a mile in the air as if leaving a message. The men could see nothing but the man burning alive on fire, raining down fireballs, and their bullets melting away upon entry into his aura field. They couldn't defend themselves as their van's armor and suits caught flame. Badger rendezvoused with the nurse assistant. He was breaking the chains of all the masks that were locked up. After shattering 30 chains and 30 shackles, his hands felt as if they had broken. Unable to feel his fingers or palms, only the aching below his wrist. They couldn't find Mariposa nor stop the firestorm from Jordan, opting to escort the disoriented and traumatized teenagers out of captivity. One boy, however, hadn't left. He looked much younger than Chris from his own assessment, yet the boy fearlessly joined the fight, refusing to allow the regulators and mafia to leave, creating a huge gust of wind, knocking all those who attempted to run back into the freezing hail of ice shards dropping from the sky, with great balls of fire dropping down. The wind only worsened both calamities, creating a hurricane of fire and ice. The destruction made Zenith's work seem light from the previous night, completely destroying the ship's containers and very ground the harbor had been built on, freeing all the hostages. The 5 of them managed to escape, leaving not a single regulator or mafia member to tell the tale of what happened here. Nothing but the carnage was left in their wake as their group escaped back to the clinic for treatment. Whoa, that was amazing! Chris felt re-energized and revitalized with a single win under their belt. I admit, it felt good, the nurse assistant added. It was sloppy, Mariposa critiqued. Thank you for freeing you. I'll owe you my life, Crimson. The boy bowed on one knee. My boy, you look like my dear friend Avalon. Jordan kneeled before the boy. I'm his son Zamir, but my friends call me Draco. Draco? Chris nearly fell out of his skin. Yeah, Badger. Thanks, man. Draco couldn't hide his handsome baby face, looking no older than Devlin at 15 or 16. Seems like we have a proper team to do some damage now. Mariposa hugs Draco around his neck and he smiles, sinking into her touch. The 5 of us? Badger asked, rubbing his neck. Especially you, Badger. You're braver than any of us, Draco notes. No way, man. You 3 did all the work. Chris refused any credit. Well, we did free the hostages, the nurse assistant shrugs. You didn't see the hellstorm they caused? Chris raised his hands, not wanting to be compared to Mariposa or Draco. Wait, did you call him Crimson? The nurse assistant laughs. I mean, yeah, that was the first name that came to mind. Draco shrugged. I like it. Mariposa nodded. Big Red Crimson. Chris laughs. I guess you're a mass now, Mr. Brooks. Happy to have you, Devlin's dad. Draco nods. This is Zenith, Dad? Mariposa whistled, impressed. Zenith. Jordan repeated the name as if it stoked so many conflicting emotions. The number 1 mask, my rival. He uses the ether to cause chaos around Nadia and then escapes without a trace. Sometimes I feel this entire war against the regulators and mafia is cleaning up Devlin's senseless messes around Nadia. I pray you're nothing like Devlin. Draco informed, standing up to leave. I must get home before my dad worries. I can't imagine what my brother told him. Meet us back here tomorrow, Draco. Tell the kids to stay home. We'll solve this tomorrow night. We can finally stop Zenith. Mariposa cheers. Stop Zenith. Jordan looked at his mummified hand, seeing himself in the mirror, stained crimson red from head to toe. Crimson. You should rest, Mr. Brooks. We'll come to check on you tomorrow. Chris cheers, heading off after Draco and Mariposa. Wait, you 2 are just going to leave me here with him? The nurse assistant calls out as the teenagers head off to their respective homes. Well, Crimson, you going back to bed? Am I Mr. Brooks or Crimson? Jordan asked. I don't know who you are, guy. The nurse assistant shrugs. Who are you? My name's Valencia. Most people call me Benita. Valencia guided him to the cot to lay down. Who am I? Crimson. Who is Crimson? Crimson's whoever's raining down fireballs and all those dogs and jackals tormenting everyone every day. That was amazing, Valencia cheered. That was me, Jordan confirmed. Then you are Crimson. I must get up. My son, you need to rest. I can help you find your son. He has a phone number, right? My son, Crimson repeats. What about your son? Valencia asks as Jordan struggled to speak. I failed him. Crimson rests, passing out from sheer exhaustion. Valencia watched him sleep, intrigued by the band's fighting spirit and prowess. As he slept, she grabbed a bucket of hot water and a mop, being the only one here tonight to clean the mess. With such a small supply of staff, they also acted as janitors. As Valencia reached the steps where they had met, an iron door leading to the basement, she grabbed a Brillo pad and sponge, scrubbing the blood down the steps, losing herself in the hours of compulsive cleaning, unwittingly working through her anxiety of having a living weapon in her clinic. She couldn't bring herself to fear the man, so she cleaned, scrubbing the basement until it resembled a livable space. Valencia had enough room to reenact the night she witnessed, waving her hands like Mariposa and emulating the flames falling from the sky. In her shock, she summoned a small wave of water, wondering if she had been strong enough to gather enough water to finish cleaning the steps since her Brillo pad disintegrated. I can teach you, Jordan noted, now awake. Valencia screamed out, holding her chest, wondering how he opened the iron doors so effortlessly without making a noise. Teach me what? To fight. To join us when they all come. You can teach me in waterbend. Valencia laughed it off as a joke. You already know it in your soul. You're a waterborne kinetic. You already know this, so I need not teach you to waterbend. I must teach you to fight for Nadia. Valencia was intrigued by Jordan, following his instructions as they spent the entire day without anyone aware they were in the basement, training, sparring, and crafting the woman tired of being afraid and pushed around in her own home into a weapon. Jordan's memories faded in and out, seeing the room, remembering auditoriums of men and women and children going through their kata, practicing every type of bending known to humanity just decades ago. All had stopped with the death of Abada Samara. In Valencia, he saw the fruits of decades, as if within mere hours the former general of Nadia's army trained his pupil. He did not create the perfect warrior, but he did not want her harming herself chasing after them. From what he's seen thus far, these children were met with violence first and questions never. As dangerous as it seemed to be fighting the regulators, they had no business being in Nadia, and their entitlement to kill the next generation of natives and to imprison the current generation in slave labor is a sin against God, a crime against the guardians, and anyone who stood against the regulators of the mafia fought a righteous cause in Jordan's eyes. He owed his life to Valencia, Chris, and Mariposa. He had no intention of losing any of them as he lost his son and wife to the evil of this world. In ancient times, the Crimson Elite stood against the evils that harmed Nadia. In modern day, there was no such protection for Nadians. Their only shield was prayers of mercy and subjugation to their colonizers. As natives in their own region, they had to hope their invaders did not murder or imprison them on the spot. There had been no Crimson Elite in Samira's day, as he feared how the media and Nadia's allies would feel with such a powerful force existing in Nadia. If he can get his hands on these kids for a few weeks, he could train the ultimate warriors. If he could resist his urges for revenge for a year, then perhaps he could create a new Crimson Elite to defend Nadia. Chapter 10. Devlin had escaped, wounded but whole. The face-off with Draco was tense. It felt as if Draco saw no one else but Devlin. It was Draco's downfall. If all things went according to plan, then Draco would be halfway to Urdu and Naka by sunrise. No one would be left to stop Devlin from igniting the regulators. Chris was terrified. Hopefully now he would stand down and realize what was at stake here. Devlin was tired of failing and losing his friends. With his new powers, he could bring both the regulators and mafia to their knees. There would be no more need for masks and kids dying needlessly. But Jordan had stopped him before he could finish preparing his attack. Once the first sound of a weapon knocking caught Jordan's ear, he swept Devlin out before he could channel a supernova ability that destroyed the harbor. Draco and his own father stood in his way. Jordan seemed so willing to help and trust Devlin. Everyone else had given up on Devlin's goodwill. Maybe there was no getting through to Devlin at this point, Or maybe perhaps it was no longer Devlin at all, but a husk possessed by a poltergeist of bitterness, hatred, and anger directed at anyone before it. Maybe the boy no longer remained at all, replaced by Colin's agenda and Nshishi's promises of reuniting with his mother and girlfriend. "Hey, kid," Mariposa had suddenly appeared, overlooking the regular castle once more. "You found me." "You stand out, Zenith. I wanted to talk to you before you committed suicide." Mariposa looked down below, realizing the fall would be more than fatal. "About standing down and giving up?" Devlin asked. "How about joining a better cause? Your dad's been kicking our ass all day. He's gathered our best together, and he's been training us. You would be really impressed with this nurse Valencia. She's surpassed us all. I think it would be good for you. Good for all of us to get on the same page." Mariposa extended her hand. "So he's adopted more kids, just when I thought I was special." Devlin rolled his eyes as the demon sought its foothold. "He's amazing, Zenith. I see why you work so hard to be a hero, and why you fear nothing. Having him as your dad, those are some huge shoes to fill. He's not my dad, all right. He was my mother's husband. My mom is dead, and my dad is probably dead. So get lost, Mariposa." Devlin waved her away. "He's the man who stepped up and took care of you, right? He's the one who taught you, fed you, and loved your mama your whole life. Look, did you come up here for a fight or to nag me?" Devlin challenged. "My father's dead. Colin Gerger broke into my grandparents' home and killed my grandfather, kidnapped my grandmother, and when my father attempted to stop him, he killed him too. All the eldest men in my family died like that. Next time I saw my grandfather, there were no hugs. She began training me like your stepfather did for you. She trained me to one day fight the fire guardian or anything else that would attempt to threaten me or my family. She trained me to one day fight the fire guardian or anything else that would attempt to threaten me or my family. So I would never have my dignity and freedom stripped away from me like she had. You believe any of that matters to me?" Devlin yawned. "We have more in common than you think. I admire your bravery and strength. I think with the right guidance you could be more. And I believe Crimson is that guidance." Mariposa shrugged, giving up her pursuit, preparing to leave. Who the hell is Crimson? Devlin gritted his teeth, feeling he already knew the options. "Well, Mr. Brooks got shot up pretty bad saving your ass last night, so after we saved him and brought him back to life, we started calling him Crimson because of all the blood seeping through his bandages. I'm telling you, Devlin, if you can humble yourself and follow this guy, we have an honest shot at winning back Nadia." "I work alone, Mariposa." "Zenith, you suck at this, let's be honest. All the power in the world, and you're no good guy. You have terrible results, you murder random people, and then cause more deaths by proxy. You are the most dangerous person in Nadia. You are the problem at this point, Devlin. We cannot solve the mafia or regulators because you keep killing both. I'm begging you to reconsider your solo suicide mission and live a long life with a real team. We don't need kids and teenagers anymore. With the team we have now, if we just had you, Devlin, we would be unstoppable." Mariposa once more extended her hand. "Once I bring back Brent and my mother, then I'll reconsider." Devlin shrugged her off, turning back to his mission. "What? You can't bring back a body without a spirit, Devlin. I know that healing technique, and those are not freshly dead bodies. And they have not gone through the proper process to have their soul re-enter their body. Without a spirit, the soul has no anchor connecting the body to the life force." Mariposa broke down the entire process, though she had performed it rather recently. "But he said he could bring them back," Devlin snapped, sending the demons fleeing as Devlin's genuine anger lit up the night sky, attracting the attention of anyone with the ability to read energy signatures. Mariposa stepped back as an orange and blue aura blossomed around Devlin. Mariposa shielded herself in eyes as Devlin's wild energy dissolved the building underneath their feet. "You are the problem, Devlin." Mariposa shook her head, leaping away to the edge of the building. "And Shishi's the problem. It isn't the regulators or the mafia. There's this group. They all dressed in these nice suits and outfits. They looked loaded. They spoke about They spoke about toppling over the mask and the regulators in Nadia like it was playing a game of footy. We are fighting the wrong enemy. Even the Don looks terrified of this guy. What guy? Colin Gregor. He came out of my body yesterday. After my mother. After she. Devlin fell to his knees, his energy surging, making it too difficult to approach him. Devlin began sobbing, letting out woeful groans and bellows. The demon had lost its foothold, slipping away as Devlin breaks down completely, crying like a newborn baby looking for its mother. I'm so sorry for everything I said, Devlin. Mariposa covered her mouth, unable to process his power level and unspeakable trauma. It was hard to remember how young he was compared to her. At the end of the day, Devlin was just some doofus sophomore with ether powers, while most people simply had fire or water to worry about, maybe even air in there since they were rare in Nadia. But ether was the rarest of them all. Most Nadians didn't even believe ether to exist, thinking themselves unaligned or born cursed, instead of understanding the incredible agony one goes through to unlock their ethereal abilities. If not through the aching of a broken heart, the shattering of an idle mind, or the endless study of a prudent scholar, the ether was unreachable. Devlin couldn't contain himself, feeling the rage before him. Charging his ability from the rooftop, he gathered back all his expended energy in the air, absorbing the enormous power back into his body and then teleported back to his position last night. He still had a few more seconds to charge his ability. The rounds of fire came before he could release his attack, but he gladly took the bullets through his shoulder and stomach, releasing a nuclear attack, destroying the walls of the castle. In the initial explosion, a shockwave passed through for miles before the entire castle began sinking into the ground, crashing in upon itself. Soldiers fled for their lives, escaping in any way they possibly could muster, though most died, disappearing into non-existence, without anything to signify a castle had ever been there at all. That people's fathers and mothers, sons and daughters worked inside the castle walls. Children and parents who believed they were doing the right thing. All that remained were Humvees and other military vehicles fleeing back west without hesitation or bothering to look back. No one had ever seen an attack so powerful and so belligerent. Though this time they did see one lone boy, not an army of children or a fighting force, fleeing, believing it to be the boy king himself. Devlin walked back to the city in part to sort through the thoughts heavy in his mind, but primarily because he had temporarily lost all his powers until he rested. The supernova released every bit of him. No one could survive, and he couldn't use his powers for a short time. The trade-off seemed perfect for the results. He trained in the middle of nowhere for weeks after Bryn's death, developing the technique. He simply had enough power to fight all of his enemies alone. The power to stand before an army alone. Bryn would be alive. His mother would have survived because he wouldn't need others to fight for him. He could stand by himself. One man to take down the entire regulated regime in the mafia. It had to be done no matter the consequences. Devlin convinced himself as he stepped to his feet, backing his ego. A tree of a mask came up from the sky. "Hey bro, was that you?" One asked with long dreads coming from down his back. "We felt that from here. You took it to the regs after kidnapping all our friends? We owe you, bro." Another with bright orange hair and a large beard connecting like an auburn lion's mane. The last boy was quiet, watching Devlin curiously, falling to his knees and thanking Devlin profusely. "Who are you guys?" Devlin asked, not recognizing anyone who was in the top 10 mask out of the thousands and thousands who took up the calling. "I'm Dread, these are my boys Leo, and that's Zico on the ground. We're the Midnight Marauders." "You know Badger?" "Of course, man. Badger was a leader before you started talking about college. He retired and was heading to school." Leo laughed. "Always a punk for that." Devlin spat venom. "I mean, it sounds like a good idea. There's a whole world out there. We'll never know being stuck in Nadia." Leo seemed to challenge Devlin. Devlin stared down Leo, stepping up to him, daring him to repeat it. "I said Badger is a coward. Besides, he isn't at college. He found a new mass troop to run after him. He's following after someone else now. What kind of leader is that?" I mean, he let us know about Crimson. We're cool with Badger, man. He's like Big Brother was. Dredd vouched. I'm your brother now. Zenith extended his hand. Can you make us strong like you? Zico pleaded, looking up from the ground. And Shishi grinned, lifting up Zico's head and helping the boy to his feet. I will make you stronger than me. All you must do is follow me, and I'll give you the power to conquer Nadia. Zico fell under Shishi's spell, following Devlin along as he led the boys to an abandoned Ballotine house. The boys chuckled walking through the old mansion they would call home while acting out Xeno's plans. At the same time, the Crimson Elite was in the basement of the clinic training their abilities, practicing formations and tactics, breaking down every detail of the battle and how to adapt while sticking to the original plan. Badger had sharpened his earthbending abilities. Mariposa and Valencia acted as combat medics, training how to support, control the crowds, and use their water bending to change the course of battle. Crimson and Draco worked in tandem, working to boost Crimson's fire abilities with Draco's air to create devastating attacks to end the battle before they start. They sharpened themselves against one another for hours till their skills were honed. At times they didn't want to go home, but the teenagers had real lives and needed to return home. Jordan insisted that they enjoy their youth and do not allow the violence to blind their potential to build. Zenith and the boys stormed through the house, scaring the squatters and users who held up in the abandoned mansion. Zenith climbed on top of an old wooden table, clearing his throat and commanding everyone's attention. Heary, heary, I'm your number one mass, Zenith, and I have run the regulators out of Nadia for good, single-handedly, Zenith shouts. The Midnight Marauders led the applause, cheering on their fellow mask, having been inside studying for exams from past months. Ever since Badger retired from school, the boys took suit. Dredd ranked 500, Leo had led the pack at rank 222, and Zico was Leo's younger brother at rank 10,000. These days, they spent most of their time teaching younger masks like Zico how to run the rooftops and basic fighting before they found one of the larger mass squads to join. The winos and users groaned, moving to a different section of the mansion. Zenith hopped off the table, rolling his eyes at the personalized disrespect. He kept exploring the mansion until he found the last thing he wanted to see again. The energy signature had been hidden, but the three boys walked straight into Nshishi in the grand ballroom, seizing the entire space with its mass. The marauders fell over themselves, hugging the ground as Devlin irritably walks up to Nshishi. The trio wanted to save Devlin, but were stunned to silence and observed Devlin staring the Guardian of Fire down. What do you want, huh? Devlin sucked his teeth. It's time to pay your debt. I gave you the power to fight the regulators. Now you must pay the price. And Shishi prowls between the trio, separating them as he sniffed them, licking his chops as it stretches itself out, ready to pounce. What is that thing? Leo backed his younger brother behind him as Dredd searched for an exit, but the entire room lit in flames, blocking any escape. I gave you what you wanted. Now we must eat if you want to maintain your power. Which one of them is first? And Shishi sat on his haunches, licking its paws, one made of electricity and the other of molten magma. You made a deal with the devil? Dredd rationalized. A what? Zico asked. Him, with the long hair. He knows too much, deal. Devlin shrugs it off, knowing none of the mass personally. Fuck that shit. Dredd jumped through the fires, patting down his body, rolling out of the flames and sprinting past the homeless men and winos. The house was evacuated as Nshishi's fiery mane burned down everything around it. Nshishi gave up its pursuit of Dredd, blocking the exit, feasting upon the vagrants who occupied the abandoned mansion, too drunk, high, and confused to put up a fight or flee, frozen in a mental comatose as they scattered, giving Nshishi delight and amusement as he ate them alive. What the fuck is this shit, Zenith? This is how you got number one spot? Leo cursed, looking for his younger brother, but couldn't find Zico. Zico had been by Zenith's side, finding an exit out of the burning building falling around Leo. Leo couldn't find Dredd, and could hear Nshishi's menacing stomping returning to the grand hall. Leo stepped through the flames unharmed, scared to call for his brother, feeling defeated with agonizing pain in his heart, leading both his best friends into such a trap. Leo fell outside, sobbing and trying to wipe the snot from his nose, trying to keep silent so Shishi couldn't hear him escape. Dread had long fled, leaving the two brothers behind, seeking any mask who would help them, to warn them of the danger present right in their backyard. The mansion burned to the ground behind him. Leo walked the streets of downtown Exego, stumbling in tears, falling in the middle of the street to catch his breath and composure. Damn it. Damn you, Zenith. You fucking bastard. Damn you. Leo bit his lip, feeling the blood bursting in his mouth as the body jittered and rattled. Leo? Badger asked, walking home from training. Badger? Badger! Leo cried, hugging him, breaking down and unable to hold himself up. Badger was in shock and awe. Leo had been the proudest man Badger had known. When he left him in leadership, all Leo did was give a sneer as if knowing all along he was the only man who could replace Badger's cool mind and quick wits in the field. Badger held up Leo, trying to heave the larger man, but barely had the strength to hold him. Badger? Mariposa asked, noting Leo. Leo? You two can stop him. Leo snapped back, feeling relieved as soon as he saw Mariposa. Come with us. Our leader isn't too far. We can use another firebender, Mariposa noted. No, fuck that shit. Fuck that, I'm done. No, man, after tonight, you need to save my brother. Save Cedric, Chris. Leo shook him, falling down to his knees. What happened, Badger? Mariposa asked. Badger shrugged, taking a deep breath and lifting Leo up on his shoulders, carrying his weeping companion back to the clinic a few blocks away. Mariposa felt the strongest energy she ever felt a mile away, wondering if the two were connected. Though many people admired and respected Mariposa, retiring as a mask at rank 2, she only controlled the one single squad, though a formidable army of 1,500 loyal followers. She never led by title but by example. Draco was in the new rank 2, controlling a squad of 1,000. Draco had organized his squad into 20 lesser squads. Badger was ranked 100. Though this was the first time he ever took being a mask seriously. He once led Draco's Midnight Marauder squad until visiting universities in other regions. Crimson was unranked. Valencia, the nursing student working her way through college. Valencia was tired of working doubles overnight because she was afraid to walk herself home at night. The alternative is having her male co-workers take her home with the hopes of dropping her draws. Valencia came home after the regulators first came to Nadia to find her parents dead. Horror controlled her everyday life, seeing the horrific things that happen to people and how people die unable to afford services. It wasn't like that when she grew up in Nadia. The free clinic was free. Once the Knockins began buying up the properties in the area, the prices of everything rose. The team understood their fight was the will of the people. Leo was shell-shocked in an examination room awaiting Valencia to finish rebandaging Crimson's entire body yet again. Badger sat next to Leo trying to get any words out edgewise, but all Leo would keep repeating was that they needed to save Zico. You're wasting time. He has him now. You're wasting time. We must go. We must save Cedric. Leo kept repeating. Who? Every time he came to saying the name, Leo froze, scared as if when he said the words, the very being would appear before them. The fear paralyzed Leo. I can't face him again. Leo shook his head. Who? Badger repeats, growing frustrated. Zenith. Mariposa whispered under her breath. He's not alone. Leo cried. He's not alone. My compatriots, how are you this evening? You've already left for training. Go home and rest. Crimson hobbled into the examination room with his freshly wrapped bandages impeding his movement. Your son's at it again. Mariposa jeered. Devlin. Crimson asked, almost remembering his identity and the pain he wanted to set behind him to focus on something positive. Zenith has made a deal with Nshishi. When Dredd called him out, this 20-foot fire line went after him like a bat out of hell. It burned down the entire Ballantine house. Then when my back was turned, my brother, Zenith took Zico. I barely escaped before the house fell, but right now, the bastard killed Dredd and has my brother. I don't even know if Zico's alive, but I know Zenith will stop at nothing to please that demon. He offered up Dredd to be sacrificed like we weren't even human. He didn't even think twice. Leo finally let out in rage. Something about speaking to Devlin's father gave him more confidence. My son did that. He isn't your son anymore. He's Zenith. Chris remembered his words, realizing he had fully lost his friend. I got a little more fight in me tonight. I can call up Draco to get him back here if we're going out. Mariposa stretched out. Tonight we wish to die, Draco said, coming from the basement, having never left at all. Jordan shook his head. Children, death is permanent. This is my fight. You can't fight your own kid, Mr. Brooks. Chris shook his head. I'm not Jordan anymore. I'm Crimson. Jordan confirms. Kids were shocked at the announcement. Crimson turned about face, leading them all from the clinic. Each got dressed along the way, suiting up their mask and outfits. Draco adorning his wings, taken to the sky to scout ahead. Mariposa hopped into the harbor with Valencia, taking off to catch the energy signature and intercept Draco before he rushed into the fight alone. He's stronger than any of us by himself, Leo confirmed. We're not alone. We are a team. Crimson smiled in reassurance. Rest down, my boy, and go home. Jordan rode with the Badger on a surfboard made of tarmac, taking up the rear of the battle to assess the situation and form a plan. Chapter 11. Where are my brother and Timmy? Cedric asked, following Devlin away from the burning building, hiding on a rooftop. Be quiet, I'm trying to think. Think about what? Cedric asked. You don't feel those energy signatures? What is coming towards us from every frickin' angle? Zenith gritted his teeth. It feels like Mariposa and Badger. Cedric smiled in relief. They can help us fight that lion. I need that lion to fight them, Zenith snaps. Why? No way, they're the good guys, Cedric shook his head. We have to go back to that house now, Zenith demands. No, I won't. I want my brother and Tim, Cedric cries out. Shut your freaking mouth before I throw you off this fucking building, Zenith threatens. Cedric shut up, stalling for time as he looked off the rooftop. I can't make that jump. Devlin stopped, finding himself back a few weeks ago. I won't let anything bad happen to you, Zico. Let's go. Devlin lifted the kid's chin, kneeling to his eye. If you come with me, we can make you stronger than me, I promise that. We are the good guys. We're fighting to defeat the mafia and the regulators. We are the righteous cause, not them. These masks are going to destroy the entire region. I can be stronger than you? Zico asked, always getting picked on for being the run of the litter amongst the marauders. Of course, buddy, let's go. Let's hurry. Zenith smiled, giving a thumbs up. Zenith followed after Zico, ensuring he wouldn't try to escape with his back turned to try to get help. He tracked the boy's every step, trying to force him to rush as the energy signatures circled his location right outside the mansion. The once beautiful home was a tattered ruin burned to a crisp, standing by little more than the steel and concrete foundations beneath the wood decor and drywall. Rather than the grand hall, and Shishi was immediately by the entrance, feasting upon the bodies. Zenith was relieved to find the beast still there. He returned, and Shishi rose its bloodied mouth from its meal. I have some strong energy signatures coming here looking for me. I need you to turn this kid super strong. Zenith pointed at 5'1" Zico weighing nearly 100 pounds after a good meal. And Shishi rose his head. They have a guardian amongst them. Wait, you're scared too? Devlin panicked. I fear nothing. I will simply sit out of this battle. And Shishi lifted his head up to the sky. You're afraid of some guardian? You're supposed to be a guardian. The only thing that can kill me is my own kind. If it was simply your kind, then it would be meaningless. I feel its energy, like a revengeful spirit. And Shishi growled. Dude, they're gonna kick my ass, Zenith barks. Here, put on this mask and you'll be imbued with my powers, without me needing to be present. And Shishi offered, vanishing from view, dematerializing into a leather mask with a bright star on its forehead. Here, Zenith holds it out to Zico. He told you to wear it, Zico barked. Zenith didn't trust a single word Shishi had said. He needed to see what the mask would do before he put his faith in Shishi. Zenith took a deep sigh, grabbing Zico by the throat and wrestling him to the ground. Zico cried and screamed. Zenith buried his elbow deep into Zico's throat, silencing the screams as the energy signatures felt as though they were outside. Zenith had knocked Zico nearly unconscious, coughing and weeping as the mask is forced over Zico's head. I told you to wear the mask, and Shishi's disembodied voice growled angrily as Zico's body levitated into the air, lighting up from within as the skin began inflating like a balloon. You tricked me, Zenith shouted. No, you didn't listen. The child's body's not strong enough. He'll explode or become an abomination. Shishi warned, his voice echoing and fading away. The explosion of dark energy knocked Zenith off his feet to the ground. As he came to after being smacked against the concrete walls, Zenith was unsure whether the agonizing groans were his or not. He lifted his head to find a pus ball of flesh and limbs twitching in the middle of the floor where Zico had been. Zenith slowly approached, nearly vomiting from the sight before him. You did this to me. The pus ball begins wheezing, sucking up the air around it. Zenith's eyes nearly fell out of his mouth as the pus ball grew a large muscular arm from his flesh, crawling closer, leaving a trail of saliva and ooze. A second arm erupts from the flesh ball. Then it grew legs as the amorphous blob took shape, approaching Zenith relentlessly, chasing Zenith throughout the house at a breakneck speed. Zenith was unable to lose the creature growing immensely inside. Zenith hid inside a bedroom, gathering his breath and attempting to form a strategy. The monster broke through the wall, concrete and drywall falling over Zenith's body, arresting his train of thought. Zenith remained beneath the pile of rubble, hoping the monster would fade away or give an opportunity for him to attack. Instead, the monster stomped down on Zenith, sending his body straight through the first floor. Zenith fell to his back, looking up to find the monster preparing to leap right on top of him and crush him flat. Zenith took in a breath of air, rolling away, narrowly avoiding being flattened like a pita bread. Zenith stumbled, rushing out of the front door of the building, falling down the steps in tatters right at the feet of the Crimson Elite. Seal him, Crimson said remorselessly. Badger bound Zenith so tight he couldn't move his hands or legs. It's inside! The real beast is inside, Zenith pleaded. You're the only monster here. Where's Cedric? Badger scolded. Who? That bratty kid? He put on a mask from Shishi. He's gone. He's a rampaging beast now, Zenith explained, trying to escape his bindings. The giant monster broke through the wall. The entire mansion collapsed to the ground behind him as it lumbers up to the Crimson Elite. What did you do to him? Badger asked. He did it to himself, Zenith scoffs, more concerned with his escape. He's 12, Badger shouts, staring up 20 feet as the amalgamation grew to its full size. We could use him in this fight, Mariposa sighed, kicking Devlin with her foot. If it comes to that, Crimson noted, not engaging or acknowledging his son as he saw the giant spirit that possessed the boy's body. Mariposa and Valencia, try to slow him down. Badger, trip him up. Draco, when Badger gives you the opening, knock it over. Let's go. Everyone moved to formation, using the nearby Euphrates River for water through its legs. Badger lifted the home behind the beast, using the oldest trick in the book. After the beast teetered, it swung wildly for balance, knocking Draco from the sky to the ground. In a single blow, Draco was unconscious. Damn it, fall back, Crimson called, creating a fireball in his hand, then releasing it in the giant's face to steal its attention. The creature came for Crimson. Take out its knee, Badger, Crimson shouts. Badger creates a concrete pillar, attempting to shatter the beast's knee. Instead, it leaps in the air, winding its body, attempting to crush them all at once. Mariposa created a shield of water, bouncing the beast off. All together now, Crimson shouts. They all summoned their strongest attacks, unleashing into the beast and subduing it down to its knees. Crimson raised his hands to the sky. Father God, please free this child from his affliction. Set him free and bring him justice. Crimson pleaded to God. The beast grabbed him with one hand, squeezing Crimson. It rises to a knee, smacking Crimson in its palm, squeezing him, choking the life out of him. Heavenly Father, I accept my fate. Crimson bows his head. A pulse of light comes from the night sky, a ray of energy going through the beast in an instant, bursting into blood all over the grass and people below. On the floor, Crimson lay, clutching Zico tight to his chest. Zenith tried his best to get free, knowing once Zico awoke, he wouldn't have much time to get away. Zenith fought and pried against his bondage until finally inhaled, getting a little bit of space between him and the bindings and then teleporting away. Badger ran to Crimson's side, lifting Zico into the air and twirling him around. We saved you! We actually saved someone! Badger? Zico whined, wrapping his tired arms around Badger's neck. You're all right now, buddy. Badger cheered. Zenith got away. Zico struggled, passing out from exhaustion. They all turned to see Zenith gone. Badger cursed, but the rest didn't understand the danger. Only Mariposa truly saw Leo. The rest barely understood. They didn't know. We have to stop Zenith. Badger stood. Crimson bowed his head, looking down at Zico. Draco, Mariposa, and Badger. You three go find Devlin. I cannot bring myself to harm my son. What about me? Valencia asked. I need you to help me treat young Cedric here. Crimson smiled, nodding her along. Do you think we're strong enough? Mariposa questioned. I believe you three can work together. Crimson waved him off, lifting Zico up in his arms, looking down and remembering those easier days of fatherhood. The trio examined one another, looking off to wonder where Zenith had gone. Then Mariposa and Draco both looked at Badger. Badger sighed, leading them to the only place he thought Zenith would go to strategize, the gym. Chapter 12. Returning to his training before Chris brought his dad to bother him. He was tired enough that he needed a nap, but had enough energy left to repeat what he did at the fortress to the mafia compound. Then both would be wiped out of Nadia for good. Devlin shook away from napping on the wrestling mats, looking around him in all directions. They had come from him. The metal grate opens wide, locking itself open. A tailwind swept Devlin out of the gym into the open. A fist of water turned to ice at the final moment, knocking him to the ground. Then a freight train of stone ran Zenith down. Zenith got himself up on one knee, smiling as he stood tall, trying to find a single target's location. Their energies moved swiftly. He turned about face, confronted by another solid fist of ice. As he tried to move, his legs were embedded into the concrete. A gale of wind sent cold, sharp knives through Zenith's body. Zenith's eyes glowed red, and he looked up, clotheslining through the concrete armor, knocking Badger out cold. Behind him, he threw a ball of ethereal energy, knocking Draco from the sky. He switched his focus on the strongest target, Mariposa. Mariposa drew out into the sea, calling for his attention with balls of water, enough to irritate him without real lethal intention. Mariposa met Zenith at the pier of the harbor. Zenith hit a ball of lethal energy behind his back, gasping as he countered the hundreds of ice balls the size of his head raining down at his location. Zenith felt his bones crack and snap under the weight and force dropping him flat on his face. Mariposa stood over Zenith, raising the ocean to the sky into a spear of ice. Zenith sneered until she shattered into a million pieces. A hail of spears fell from the sky, and Zenith had no real escape. He teleported away, too tired to transport far enough away to avoid the fight. Badger shielded himself and Draco, watching in terror as Mariposa's true power, if she hadn't been holding back, struggling to even protect himself from their attack. When the spears of ice stopped a half hour later, Badger and Draco finally found it safe to move, searching for Mariposa and Zenith. They found Mariposa sitting by Zenith's body. Zenith bolted into the ground with spears varying depths into his body or pinning his clothes down. We finally got him, Mariposa smiled boldly at the duo. You're the true number one, huh? Draco rubbed his neck, feeling dwarfed by Mariposa's capability. It's not about rankings, it's about results. So, do you give him to the regime or the mafia? Mariposa sitting on Dina's back. His father. His father. Badger frowned, staring at the ground. Come on now. We can end all this here right now. Draco clenched his fist, but Badger had truly saved his life. There would have been no way to fly away from Mariposa's attack. Hey, Big Red, we caught him. Badger pulled out his phone, calling Valencia and Crimson. I see. Crimson applauded, revealing himself, but a few ice spears lodged into his shoulder. You saw. You saw? Badger looked at his phone, putting it away. I thought I would play support in case you all needed help. Crimson kneeled by Xeno's side, pulling the mask from his face. Xeno's life filled his body, seething with rage as his mask left his face, the ultimate disrespect. Xeno's aura flared up around him. She was sending them away with the sheer shockwaves of force. The mask from earlier manifested before Devlin. Stop him, Badger called out, knowing nothing good came of that mask. I can give you the power to win this fight. I can give you the power to win this fight. And Shishi's voice whispered in Devlin's ear. We can end this, Devlin, Crimson called out. I'll bring back Bren and Mother, with or without you. Devlin pulled the mask from the mansion over his head. The stars shined like the rising sun. Devlin's muscles bulged. He felt himself grow taller, and his ethereal energy sparked around him like electricity. He was no longer Zenith. He was no longer Devlin. He had become Morning Star. Gather on me, Crimson commanded as the trio scrambled the phalanx together. Morningstar clenched his fists, extending his hand to feel a ball of pure ethereal energy manifest. A single pluck sent the dark matter flying warp speed. It broke through the walls of ice and stone, pushing the fire blast imbued with Draco's air abilities. They all leaped away as the ball exploded, destroying the shipping containers and concrete and sending everything around them flying. More of these balls were sent, more than possible to count, imitating Mariposa's attack. Mariposa, stand down. Don't give away your location, Crimson commanded. She wanted to disobey and leap out. But where she would have appeared, a ball came from behind, anticipating her appearance, crashing into another. Mariposa dug into her hiding spot, imagining she would have been dead without listening to Crimson. Now, Crimson commanded. Mariposa growled, leaping out and raising her hands, throwing everything possible at Morning Star. Steam, scalding hot water, ice spears, water balls, and even poison from the polluted air. Morningstar opened miniature holes in space-time, absorbing the attacks and then sending them at Draco, Badger, and Crimson, scattering her friends. Crimson was too busy avoiding his pupils' attacks to lead his drops, trying to survive the bloody onslaught. Badger shielded himself, unable to see anyone else's position. Draco's intuition kicked in and he dodged, taking flight. As he soared, the portals kept opening around him until he found Morningstar's location. Draco suddenly appeared before Morningstar. Morningstar gritted his teeth, calling forth an attack. With grace and strength, Draco pushed away. The ball of dark matter shattered against Morningstar's chest, sending him through his own portal before Crimson. Crimson grabbed Morningstar by the throat and captured his wrist, holding him down. Devlin, are you still in there? The mask! And Shishi's controlling me. I've lost all control over my body, Devlin pleaded. Morningstar armored itself, forcing Crimson to release his grip to risk losing his limbs to the armor, shielding himself up around his son. Kicking Crimson's angle out from under him, then backward, somersaulted to his feet. Morningstar looked at the destruction across the harbor and smiled, teleporting away, satisfied with his power and heading off to continue his plans. We needed Valencia, Crimson cursed, picking himself up off the floor. We almost had him, Draco cheered. Did we? I was trying not to get killed by Mariposa. Badger rolled his eyes. You know what? I'd him dead to rights until you suggested taking him to his daddy, Mariposa fumed. You almost killed us twice. What happened to teamwork, Badger retorted. We're done for the night. Consider this training. Go home and meditate on what happened. Crimson implored. You can go to sleep, old man. I know he's going to the mafia compound. Let's go. If you two aren't chicken shit, then let's end this right now. Mariposa rushed on ahead. I'm sorry, Crimson, but that's my real leader. Draco sighed, unable to look Crimson in the eyes, flying after Mariposa. Crimson shook his head in shock. Was I so bad of a father? Sometimes even with the best fathers, you still grow entitled to his love. I'm not telling you it's not Devlin because I want to be a man. I'm being real. I've been watching him for a while. He didn't start that deal with Nshishi just now. He had been growing stronger in these huge bursts. If we get that mask off of him, we get our Devlin back. Badger comforted. He's so much stronger than us. Crimson frowned, feeling his joints ache and his old injuries flaring up. We don't need to overpower him. We need to outsmart a self-righteous 16-year-old on a power trip. He's going to the mafia compound. He's going to try to end this tonight, Badger explained. I don't know. I think I'm in over my head, Chris. Crimson shook his head. Mr. Brooks, that's your son killing these people. You're responsible to stop him. Chris extended his hand. I'll take you to him. Crimson nodded. I guess I'll never stop being Mr. Brooks after all. I guess I'll never stop being Devlin to me. If those two stop him their way, he'll end up dead. They'll all end up dead. Or he'll end up in prison. If we stop him, then we can take the mask off his face and take him home. Badger created this surfboard of concrete and extended his hand. My wife would kill me if I let him destroy the city and bring about war. Crimson took Badger's hand. They went off in search of Mariposa's unmistakable energy signature as she hunted down Morningstar. Suddenly it halted. Crimson and Badger were able to catch up with Mariposa and Draco. Crimson hopped off the stone. Badger remained, analyzing the situation in case he needed to continue. Did you find him? She stopped. Draco shrugged. Mariposa sat on her butt, clutching her knees. What is it, dear? Crimson asked, kneeling beside her and offering his hand. I'm the guardian of water, and I think this new form Devlin found is stronger than me. It's as if he has the power of a guardian himself. I can't explain it, and I don't understand how, but he's reached a new level. None of us can touch him. It's Nshishi, Crimson confirmed. Bah, we need your power and grace, Mariposa prayed. Rakil, hear our prayers. Save your children. Guide us on the way to go, Crimson pleaded. A car horn honked at them in the street. Valencia pulled up wearing a bright red mask akin to orange and holding a deep red mask, almost purple. Valencia got out of the car, pretty upset, finding the rest of the Crimson Elite without her. I've been feeling you all, fighting here and there all night. No one calls, no one reports back. I get some scared, injured kid looking for his brother. There's some destroyed mansion, and then I gotta go to the gym by the docks that's destroyed too. I find all you in the middle of the damn street. Get up and let's go, Valencia demands, wearing a spandex jumpsuit matching the color of her mask. Wow, Valencia, you're hot. Draco rubs his neck, tripping over his feet. Well, keep it to yourself, kid. You can be my son. Valencia blushed under the mask, looking away. No, wait, this is good. Morningstar's never seen Valencia. It's Scarlet. Scarlet? Yes, and Crimson. Valencia hands Jordan Brooks a crimson leather mask. Thank you. Jordan clutched his fist. Of course. I've a lot of inspiration since this got started. I have outfits planned out, but I need money for materials. The Crimson Elite. Valencia held out her hands as if looking into the future. Crimson. Crimson asked. Jordan Brooks pulled on the mask, finally understanding the weight of his leadership. They had him. All their own because Jordan hid. He couldn't act. He couldn't protect his wife. Now his son terrifies forces more extraordinary than he could understand. The work to be done to face whatever the regime would send in retaliation. The mafia wouldn't ignore Zenith or his new form. Jordan's father had such a firm hand. His wife encouraged him to be gentler. Now he understood why he needed a father and mother. To have the strength and grace, a firm hand, and a warm hug. The warm hug and gentle parent had died. Jordan had discrepancies he wanted to discuss with his son. This time when he fought him, Crimson would take point, not Jordan hiding to protect his son. The threat was greater than Devlin or Nshishi. Naka and Urdu could send their full power upon them to take Nadi if this isn't handled properly. Jordan didn't think he could be the one to bring his son to justice, but Crimson needed to regardless. He had to bring down Zenith, because he created Zenith. Chapter 13. Draco had been in hot pursuit of Morningstar. His wings allowed him to scale the buildings and cross the rooftops with ease, while even with the strength and power, Morningstar needed to leap and climb, though at superhuman speeds and feats of strength matching if not surpassing Draco's natural ability. The mask gave Devlin abilities far beyond his imagination, limited by nothing more than his will to use its magic. Draco hoped that one of the others would catch up, unsure he would even have the energy to fight if he could reach Devlin in time. It's been like this for years. Their entire childhood, Brooks and Avalon. Both their fathers were generals under Rabata Samara, and their legacies fell upon these boys' shoulders. Draco used his weight to take to the skies and protect his home. Zenith wanted to be the best above everyone else, tired of being second to Draco. Draco lost sight of Morningstar. Draco took in a breath of air, blowing out a gust of wind as Morningstar's fist appeared centimeters from Draco's chin, the mask beginning to absorb Devlin's neck and left shoulder in black lacquer. Draco hovered above, observing Morningstar for its next move, unsure whether what remained was human after the last piece. "You want to talk it out?" Morningstar asked in Devlin's voice. Draco raised himself a greater distance above, bracing himself and regaining his energy, watching Morningstar for an attack. "Come on, pal, let's talk. We're friends, right?" "I know you. I know you don't fight fairly. And it doesn't matter what type of outfit you wear. You're nothing like your dad. You're a coward, and cowards always cheat." Draco's words cut like a sword. Morningstar let out a blood-curdling roar as its mouth opened 5 foot wide, as if it could have swallowed Draco whole if close enough. Draco smiled, pointing his finger like a gun, shooting a small amount of energy, barely noticeable to the monster before him. Morningstar closed its mouth, immediately tossed in every way possible as a hurricane awakened in its stomach. Draco went higher into the sky, raising its energy level as high as possible like a shooting flare into the sky. Morningstar's eyes widened, tapping into Devlin's memory to realize Draco was summoning the other mask. "You gave up fighting me one-on-one?" Morningstar growled. "Firecracker!" Crimson exclaimed, igniting the trail of pure oxygen, knocking Morningstar off the roof from the explosion. Draco went after the body, spearing into Morningstar, driving his childhood rival into the ground. Morningstar had no time to react, coughing up blood, beginning to recede from Devlin's neck. Draco could barely notice the difference as he recoiled from the impact. The Morningstar took the brunt of the attack. Draco found himself unable to rise, rolling over to see the hole inside of intestines, not remembering the series of stabs from the lacquer covering Devlin's entire arm. Morningstar rose, licking Draco's blood as if getting energy from its source. Draco groaned in agony, unable to move as Morningstar sized him up, licking its mandible maw and teeth, lusting to devour Draco alive. Morningstar stopped, feeling something amiss. The headlights of Valencia's car blinded Morningstar momentarily. He leaped instinctively, running face first into an immense air pressure Draco manifested. Morningstar found himself slammed between the car and a wall. The lacquer covered his leg and hips, and his right side shattered on impact. Morningstar refused to stop fighting, though Devlin remained broken inside the husk overtaking his body. Scarlet leaped out of the car, immediately rushing to Draco to aid his wounds. "Val." "Try not to talk. I'm trying to stop the bleeding." Scarlet focused on pulling lengths of cloth from her utility belt of medical supplies, stuffing Draco's wounds. "Val," Draco shunned. "I'm almost done. I'm going as fast as... Car! Draco forced himself up, lifting Scarlet and leaping away as her car was tossed at their location, bouncing off the ground like a basketball. "Draco, I haven't finished dressing the wound," Scarlet pleaded for more time. "He's back on his feet." Draco held his stomach, falling to his knees, immediately feeling the pain throughout his body. Scarlet tossed Draco the gauze, standing up with her guard to protect him from Morningstar. Morningstar had overtaken all of Devlin's body, forcing his right side stiffened into place like a cast, holding the broken bones in place to make holding the broken bones in place to make use of him regardless of the agony within the Morningstar suit. He could no longer speak or utter a thought. He had fallen entirely under the power of Nshishi, staring down Scarlet, who he didn't recognize. Scarlet threw dirt in Morningstar's eyes, making the beast scream and chop about itself. Scarlet took a pellet from her utility belt, creating a spear of poison taller than herself. Scarlet let out a battle cry, rushing Morningstar. The husk watched unimpressed, letting the spear stab it repeatedly, ignoring how dull and weak the strikes of the liquid felt against the lacquer material, covering every inch of its form. Scarlet smiled, backing off, then returning to nursing Draco. Draco looked shocked, pointing behind him as Morningstar began rushing for Scarlet to retaliate. The beast took a few steps before slowing down, coughing, wheezing, and gripping its neck as the body inside was unable to breathe from the poison. The husk had its own mind as agonizing screams and wails, sobbing for the pain to stop, came from inside the suit, as spikes pierced Devlin's legs and arms to force him to move inside the suit. Scarlet had managed to finish hastily wrapping Draco with bandages and covering it in gauze before they hurried off to find the rest of the elite, as Crimson struggled to find a way off the roof. Scarlet left Draco once more, the husk menacingly forced against the inability of the body inside, holding Devlin in place, the pain forcing the boy unconscious as the husk gained full control, flexing its form, astounded at its new abilities without having to bother with the mortal. Scarlet tried going for the attack once more. Morningstar blocked her attack. Scarlet threw kicks to the hip, feigning the attack, kicking him in the head, throwing all her weight forward off one foot, punching Morningstar in the face. Morningstar turned on her, opening its mouth wide, trying to swallow Scarlet. Scarlet fell to her back, crawling away until a tremor began falling. Badger arrived from underground, catching Morningstar with a right hook, knocking the lacquer from Devlin's face. "You got him," Scarlet cheered. "Got hit, Badger." Draco confirmed. Devlin was unconscious. His energy was at zero. He might have even been dead from the blood pouring from within the suit. "How hard did you hit him?" Crimson asked, rushing to his son's side. Pretty hard. I guess harder than I thought, if there was so much blood." "Blood? Get away from him," Draco shouted. Crimson hesitated until he saw the blood boiling around Devlin's face, burning the lacquer on his face, reanimating the body. All witness was near death. Crimson looked at Badger, giving him a nod. Badger trapped Morningstar in a suit of asphalt. Crimson took in a deep breath, unleashing a plume of fire, sealing the outsole in the molten muck. Scarlet dumped water to seal the molten suit, and Draco froze him shut with the freezing cold air. "Where's Mariposa?" Crimson asked. "She got the rest of the mask in case we can't hold him down." Crimson nodded, unsure their technique would work without fully freezing the object. Scarlet and Draco were strong, but their training proved Rose's freezing water was a critical factor. Most opponents would have been subdued or surrendered, but Morningstar used Devlin's ether bending to slip from the hold entirely, freeing itself as if it had never been caught. Wow. Well, be careful, Big Red, Draco warned as Crimson squared up with the creature that overtook his son's body. "I got your six, Crimson," Scarlet assured. Badger closed his eyes, clasping his hands, remembering the battle against the behemoth at the mansion, muttering inaudibly under his breath. Crimson and Morningstar faced off in a test of strength. Their arms locked as each tried to angle to overpower the other. Morningstar chopped at Crimson's head. Crimson unleashed a flamethrower, melting the lacquer from the chest and neck of Morningstar. Morningstar recoiled, needing to recover as it was exposed. Crimson went low, using the fundamentals to lift Morningstar in the air in a double-leg takedown and slamming him into the ground. "Hold him down," Crimson commanded. Badger snapped back to earth. "Amen." Badger created shackles around Morningstar's wrists and ankles. Crimson lifted his mask, taking a big, dirty hawk of magma mucus and spitting a bath of lava over his child, melting the lacquer off his body. Badger removed the mask from Devlin's face, tossing it away from him. Scarlet caught the mask, staring at it lovingly, stroking the mask as if it were speaking to her. "We're here," Mariposa announced. Titan in tow as more seasoned mass arrived, creating a perimeter around the battlefield. Devlin's body was retrieved and sealed in ice. watched over by Titan, and a mask nearly the size of a car named Temple. As Titan took pictures for his social media account, Temple was entrusted by Mayor Post as the only possible mask who could contain Devlin until the rest responded. "I think he's dead." Titan looked through his pictures. "He doesn't appear to be moving, but he's breathing," Temple noted in a deep baritone booming voice. "Well, he's not going to mind this photo op." Titan gleams, putting his feet on Devlin's chest and raising his phone for a selfie. No one could have reacted in time. Devlin's unconscious body coiled around Titan's ankle, dropping him, squeezing tightly as if trying to shatter the bones. Titan fell to his butt, trying to pry off Devlin, but to no avail. "You had to tempt the devil." Temple chastises Titan, trying to pry the young man off. Devlin threw dirt in Temple's eyes, the big man swinging blindly, reaching for Devlin. All that stood between Devlin and freedom was Titan, Draco's little brother. Devlin circled Titan, wondering if he should delight in beating up his rival's youngest brother or run from it. Devlin caught a glimpse of Temple rubbing his eyes clean, wanting to avoid that fight, especially if the Crimson Elite were nearby. Devlin took off sprinting, entering through a portal and exiting away. He would need to reconsider his options. "Zenith! Zenith! Where's Zenith?" Temple demanded behind watery eyes filling with grains of sand. He ran, Titan stuttered. "What is that insufferable smell?" Temple asked, using a water bottle to clear his eyes. "I had shat myself." Titan fell to his knees, staring at the ground in shame. Devlin freed himself on a rooftop, looking around and laughing it off. He was shocked he made it another day, outsmiling all the masks and getting to take a shot at the regulator regime. No one could stop him, as long as he had his mask. Where did the Morningstar mask go? "Chris!" Devlin seethes, only remembering glimpses of the final moments of the fight. "Devlin." Badger peeled from the wall, overlooking the scene below with all the masks. "How?" Devlin felt his skin, feeling exposed, vulnerable, as if Chris had predicted his movements, knowing what he'll do, knowing he would escape. "You refuse to face justice. You refuse to get the help that you need." "I needed help ending the mafia and regs," Devlin barked. "You need a therapist to help your dad plan your mother's funeral, to visit Brent's parents and clear your name. Whatever you're planning to do is the wrong thing." Badger clenched his fists. "Shut up!" Devlin rolled his eyes. The wall came alive near Devlin, unable to react as the mud clone fell apart by the rooftop. Badger held on to Devlin in a bear hug, holding his arms, grapevining Devlin's legs on the ground as Devlin struggled against the basic wrestling hold. Devlin squirmed and pleaded as Badger squeezed the life out of him. Badger switched into a chokehold, using all his strength and weight to choke out Devlin. Devlin fell over, gasping for air on his knees, depleting all his energy from the nights of crusading. Devlin was on his hands and knees before Badger, the number one mask kneeling before number 100. The injuries, wounds, and fatigue set in as Devlin couldn't heal fast enough to overcome his broken body. Devlin looked up, surprised to see Badger dropping an elbow into his solar plexus. Devlin rolled to his stomach, crawling away from Badger. "You could have gone to therapy, but instead all these people are dead. You killed your mother, Devlin. You killed Brent. It was by your hand. It wasn't by your hand, but it was all your fault. You were supposed to protect them. You were supposed to use your brain. You're a menace. You're a traitor against Nadia." Badger screamed. "Fuck you, bitch." Devlin stood up to his feet. "Say it to my face, you coward." Chris ripped off his mask. I quit being a mask. I hate seeing what this did to you. You killed your mom and your girlfriend, running around all night like someone else is to blame. It's you, man." Devlin exploded, digging his thumbs into Chris's eyes. Chris knees Devlin into the stomach, and Devlin tackled Chris to the ground, punching him and kicking him while Chris curled into the fetal position, feeling like he was being beaten by baseball bats and bricks. "You and me," Devlin stopped, turning around to his confusion. "Oh, yes. This is what I really wanted. I wasn't at that party when you slept with every single mask down there. You let every kid in town take a ride. Now you're the number one." "You mad you didn't get a turn? Or that Brent and Cameron were there with me?" Mariposa held up her guard. Devlin's breathing quickened, looking at Kristen Rose. Devlin's eyes turned black as he glared at Mariposa, and she loved every second of it. Is that why you killed her? Mariposa asked. Devlin's mask shattered, looking at Kristen Rose, stammering and unable to speak, repeating the same word. No. No, 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 Devlin cried. Yes. And that's why he took her on a suicide mission. She wanted to do anything to prove she loved you after that night. You didn't even tell her how you felt. Mariposa froze Devlin's tears, taking away his right to cry, freezing his tear ducts, his veins, and dropping the boy down. Whoa, whoa, that's enough. Nothing is enough, Mariposa snarls. Badger couldn't argue. Nothing they threw at Devlin stopped him. And after seeing him power up the Morningstar mass, there's no limit to what he could do. Devlin didn't see Chris as a friend. He was a meat shield to absorb enough bullets for Devlin to think of a way to save himself. Maybe Chris should have stayed home. Let's go. Mariposa motioned to the body. Chris threw Devlin over his shoulder. Walking down the staircase of ice Mariposa conjured from her fingertips, presenting Devlin to the group once more. This time he was immediately sealed with everything that had to keep him secure and bonded. Crimson remained silent. Every paternal bone told him to intervene, but the mask upon his face told him not to play favorites. It was his fault. Jordan blamed himself for everything and wouldn't stop until he repented. He's gone. Badger sighed, kicking a rock and shaking his head. What? There's no way, Scarlet protested. His energy's gone, Badger noted. He can't go that far. Get eyes on Zenith. We'll do this all night until he's exhausted. Office Squad go north with Titan, Draco take Delta East, Badger take Bravo West, and Big Red and Little Red take Echo to South. We're finding Devlin. Mariposa gave out the orders, daring anyone to challenge her after she packed up Devlin. Badger didn't come home to lead a squad. He shook his head, looking at his mask in his hands and dropping it on the ground. I'm done playing superheroes. I'm going home. Chris sighed, heading off as Titan and Draco held Mariposa back, screaming and shouting at him. Wait! Crimson placed a hand on Devlin's shoulders. Sir. Chris bowed his head. Thank you for everything. But take this with you, because I feel you're the only one amongst us who wouldn't be tempted to use it. Go back to school. Please. Please study how to save us from this fate. At this rate, Nadia is lost entirely. We're all fighting ourselves when we should be uniting. The fight is beyond me. I've only started my fight. Please go back to college and use your brain. Crimson patted Chris's head, and then extending the Morningstar mask. I don't want this fucking thing. Chris shook his head, too afraid to even touch the mask. That's why you must take it, and take it far from Devlin, because he'll come back to us looking for it, and we won't have it, and we'll have no way to get to you. Crimson rationalized. Here. Mariposa snatched away from Chris's tenuous grip. Crimson and Chris both gasped, fearful she would don the mask. Instead, Mariposa froze the mask in a block of ice, sealing it in for good. Chris's fight ended, but the war to defend Nadia from its invaders had only begun. Devlin had nowhere to hide and few options left, finding himself across the Silverlight Bridge and over 200 feet below him. Draco had caught his trail and relentlessly pursued him. Devlin chooses between a rematch against Draco and the fall. Chapter 14. Valencia had a break in her shift. There weren't many options open late at night, but the club, The Crown, was up until 3 a.m. A block away with some of Valencia's favorite dishes. Valencia ordered ahead to avoid overstaying her welcome. Though she enjoyed the food, it wasn't the most reputable building in Zigo. Valencia waited by the bar for her order to come from the back. She felt 2 firm hands on her hips and a whisper in her ears. Hey, sweet thing, how are you? A man brushed his lips against her earlobe. Valencia reached into her purse, reaching for her mace and instead finding the scarlet mask. She squeezed the mask as if finding power from it, giving the man a flattering smile as she got her food, politely excusing herself and aiming for the door. Hey, baby, come on, we were connecting. The man continued pursuing Valencia, drunkenly back to the clinic. Once he was inside, Valencia hid herself, expecting him to leave so she could eat in peace. Instead, he pursued her, loosening his belt for when he finally cornered her. Valencia found an anesthetic, stepping into the hallway and inviting him to follow. As he entered the room, Scarlett pulled on the mask, distracting him with a kiss and covering his face with the mask, knocking him out cold. Valencia felt a strange sensation rush over her. She had been the predator now, staring down upon the man. Valencia had no idea what happened to the man. It was a rather strange occurrence every other week. A man would hit on her while she attempted to pick up her food. Normally, Valencia would sit by the security guard and eyeball him whenever a man tried to hit on her. Instead, she began welcoming the attention as a new personality came over her. She had never partied much or went clubbing. For the brief moment she spent there, she found the club scene infectious. Men asked her to dance, men asked to buy her drinks, and men disappeared. One night, Valencia had a rough day at work, feeling ornery as she came for her food, not wanting to fight or flirt, sitting by the guard to be left alone, but as the man approached, the guard gulped and walked away. "How are we doing, sweet love?" the man greeted, kneeling before Valencia. "Mayor Vernon Hearns. And you are?" "Tired." "I am tired." Valencia glares at him, not wanting to be bothered. "You have a sense of humor. Hopefully we can get to know one another more intimately." Valencia had no recollection but the recesses of her mind. Scarlett played out the scenes of what she would do to this man. Valencia brushed him off, not wanting to be bothered, but Scarlett studied him like preparing for a test. "Where?" "Here's my address, sweet love." The mayor lifts her chin, kissing her lips. Scarlett held his hand, accepting the note, feeling his wedding ring against her face, smiling as she gave him a wink. "I'll come see you tonight, okay?" The mayor smiled, heading to his group, and Valencia gathered her food. Valencia sat at her desk, feeling restless as she tried eating her chicken wings. She was nibbling her broccoli rabe and veal sandwich, her legs bouncing, eating over the mayor's address. Valencia felt her eyes keep concentrating on it, though. She wasn't interested in him. She studied the address until it was memorized. After her meal, Valencia felt a bit sleepy. Typically, the bell sounded whenever another one entered the door, loud enough to wake her up if needed. Valencia was snoring the night away. The district of Exigo slept. She paid mind to the thought process of what was going on and happening, yet Valencia had a different experience. While even the underbelly of Exigo slept was a woman, wide awake, in a storage facility, a closed facility. Our friend Valencia had spent her evening here, and she was not alone. With the Crimson Elite? No. Her company was the mayor of Exigo. The mayor was unconscious. The last he remembered was kissing a beautiful woman, then darkness. Valencia dragged his body, bringing him here. "I would show you, but let's start from here, because I fear our friend Valencia may be gone." Scarlett, however, was quite present, as if a different person entirely. Scarlett meticulously unraveled the rope atop a stepladder, tying it around a hook on the ceiling. A few steps later, the mayor stood at her feet, weeping and tearing up. The pain in his body grew immensely as he awoke, realizing all his joints had been dislocated, as if someone sat for hours toying with him and dismantling him. "Hey, you awake?" Scarlett smiled warmly. Where am I?" "You wouldn't know, would you?" Scarlett clicked her tongue in disapproval. "Who are you?" "Well, that's a good question these days." "Well, I can tell you who I'm not," Scarlett teased, booping him on the nose playfully. "Help me! Help me!" the mayor screams in agony, finding it hard to breathe or talk. "It would be better for you to stay silent. There's glass in your throat." Scarlett began tugging her rope. The mayor watched as the room moved around him. He couldn't reach or defend himself. Pleading for help was painful. "I'll ask you a series of yes or no questions. I already know the answers, but this is a test of your integrity. If you pass, then everything will go black. You'll wake up. It's all a dream. If you fail, you die." Scarlett pulled tight on the rope, lifting him off the ground by his dislocated ankles, shards of glass falling from his mouth. Shards of glass falling at his mouth as he tries to scream. "Did you bring the regulators to Nadia?" No, you barely do your own job. You wouldn't have that type of pull. But you know who did. The mayor was quiet. Scarlett shrugged, watching him swing as she tied the rope's end to a metal pipe. Scarlett finishes her tidying, waiting for the question to be answered. Scarlett went to the corner of the room, pushing up a cart of medical supplies, syringes, and most importantly, a scalpel. Yes, yes, oh! The mayor swung wildly as more bloody shards of glass fell from his gullet. It was a glass bottle, in case you're wondering. I was going to break it later, but you started to wake up, so I stomped on your throat to shatter it. Sorry if I broke your neck. Well, not that it matters. You're bound to lie eventually now. That was a mighty long pause. Well, let me show you why you need to be honest. Scarlett sat cross-legged before the mayor, holding her scalpel like a makeup brush, creating her first incision as she sliced his forehead open. The mayor began jerking and screaming, trying to fight for his life. Scarlett dug 2 fingers into his eyes, hissing at him until he went quiet. I'm going to end up killing you. This is your last chance to welcome my mercy before I slit your throat and let you bleed out all night like a pig. Scarlett's tone grew cold, detached, as though it had never been Valencia. She, save me, the mayor pleaded. There's only Ada now, Scarlett commanded. The mayor looked up in horror. Do you know Ada? Scarlett's head tilts as she leans in closer to his face. Yeah, he's from, Brooklyn, the mayor asks. Scarlett stayed true to her word, making her work swift. A single slice across the jugular vein. She cleaned up her work, putting everything back into its place, then leaving the storage unit behind her. Mice scurried, connecting her presence to the new food. Scarlett hurried back to the car, taking off her mask, breathing as though she never tasted air before. What the fuck was that? Valencia asked herself, feeling her skin and looking at the mask in her hands, feeling its power. Valencia looked behind her and around her, having no idea where she was or how she had gotten to the docks, checking the time and realizing she would have been at her desk. She eventually takes a nap around this time, but typically, she always feels tired. Valencia held the mask to her chest, hurrying to work. The car ride felt eerie, as if another person were sitting in the car watching Valencia. Whenever she looked in the mirror, it was as if her reflection was giving her dirty looks. Valencia stopped at the light, feeling as though she were being watched. It was too early in the morning. On the hood of her car, Draco landed, peering down at her. Shit. Hey, what's up? Draco asked. Get off my car, are you crazy? Am I crazy? Are you crazy? Draco slid into her car, and Valencia continued driving. Valencia took a deep breath for a second. It felt like the Scarlet Mask was watching her from the back seat. Instead, it must have been Draco patrolling, right? Where's the mayor, Val? What? No, you didn't see anything. Draco began recounting his story to Valencia. Chapter 15. Draco arrived at the clinic 5 hours ago looking for Scarlet and Crimson. Draco looked through the open clinic, finding people in the waiting room but no one on staff. He searched. The waiting rooms were empty, not even a patient. The agonizing groans could be heard behind him in the lobby as he sought his sister in arms. Draco went to the basement, knowing for sure Valencia was downstairs, empty. Draco had gone back upstairs to search the clinic. No one. Hey, citizens, do you know where the woman who works here is right now? Draco asked. She was sleepwalking out of here about 2 minutes ago that way. The college kid with a dart deep in his arm pointed with his good arm. You good? Draco asked. I'm rushing a fraternity. I lost the bet and I had to be the dartboard. Worth it? No, bro. No, please find her. I need help. The young man passed out from the pain. Draco nodded, heading out the clinic. He called Valencia back to back, hearing them ringing down the road. Frustrated that she didn't answer, he started running after her. Valencia! Val! Scarlet! Valencia turned in a trance, punching Draco in the throat, dropping him where he stood, then evaporating into thin air. Draco growled, catching his breath and then tracking her energy. By the time he gathered himself, she managed to move a mile away. He couldn't have been down that long. Energy moved erratically, a mile there, in seconds, not minutes. Draco recalled the sewers, giving himself a bit of distance, recalling how Crimson implied they needed Valencia when fighting Morningstar. She looked so innocent to Draco. It was like Mariposa and her bending ability. Draco moved once the energy settled, taking to the sky and gliding to her location, the mayor's mansion. A puddle dragged the body. Draco watched as a puddle went down a sewer grate, forcing the body through the tight space too far to intervene. By the time Draco managed to land, they were gone. Draco returned to the clinic to find Valencia and a mechanical trance going guest to guest, treating them like a fast food spot. Valencia had come to him as if she hadn't met him. She left quickly when she discovered nothing wrong. Maybe she wouldn't recognize him without his costume. Draco found any reason possible for Valencia's behavior, but he didn't find the mayor. Draco rushed home to get dressed, saying goodbye to his dad, and then taking to the skies. "Hey, Big Red, have you seen Little Red?" Draco asked at his phone, landing to find a good point to make a drop. "I've been in the greenhouse all night, resting my knees, young man. Are you two going out tonight?" "I go out every night. I'm out now, but she's acting weird." "Well, don't get hurt messing around with Val," Crimson warns. "Maybe I should watch her from afar and report back." Draco considered rubbing his throat from earlier. "Keep in touch." "She has the mayor." Crimson went quiet but stayed on the line with Draco. Draco pursued Valencia from the sky, following the pool of energy whenever it faded from view. He found himself at the docks. He could hear nothing and see nothing. The facility was closed. Hours had passed by without Valencia showing her head, until her car rolled out of the facility as though it had been there the whole day. Draco didn't see the mayor return. Only Scarlet where there was once Valencia. "It's Scarlet," Draco muttered as though it was scarier than Valencia alone. "These masks change us," Crimson sighed. That's why he was home in the greenhouse. "I'm going in, Big Red. This is too suspicious to ignore until morning." Draco signaled, landing on the Valencia's car. "Hey, what's up?" Draco asks. "Get off my car, are you crazy?" "Am I crazy? Are you crazy?" Draco slid inside of her car and Valencia continued driving. Valencia took a deep breath. For a second, it felt like the Scarlet Mask was watching her from the back seat. Instead, it must have been Draco patrolling, right? "Where's the mayor, Val?" No, he didn't see anything. Valencia listened and were unable to admit he was right as she drove as far from the storage facility as possible. "What's up, Val?" "He's a rapist, Draco. He takes advantage of the girls at the orphanage and the working girls. He's abusive, and he tried me tonight." "Tried you?" "I went out to get dinner. Say what you want about the crown, but the food is delicious. Then he comes bothering me and talking to me. Scarlet told me she would take care of it. He tried to kiss me, then I knocked him out. I already had the body for a while, but I didn't know what to do with it. Then I let Scarlet do her idea." "You are Scarlet." "I can never do what Scarlet does." Valencia shook her head. Draco fell silent. The fear wasn't the same as with fighting Morningstar. Draco didn't have much experience with women to talk to Valencia about the subject. Crimson had been quiet on the headset. "You have to believe me, Valencia, please." "Valencia, you need to go home. Go home, go to bed. Take a break from being a mask for a bit." Draco suggests. "I think the pressure is getting to you." "We're all the Crimson Elite has left," Valencia protested. "I am, but what you do isn't what we do, and you know that," Draco asserts. "It was one person. A few people have gone missing. High-ranking men very similar to the mayor. Are you sure you didn't have any practice for taking out such a high-profile target?" "You'll never understand what it means to make the world safe for women. Breaking men like that is the solution," Valencia accused. "You don't think people will come looking for the mayor?" "What will they find when the rats are done?" Scarlet giggled. Valencia covered her mouth, shocked that such a thing had come from her mouth. Was he right? Are Scarlet and Valencia one and the same? Go home, Valencia. Get some rest. I'm only saying it because I love you like a sister. This will come back hard against the entire movement, or you. It would be best if you didn't end up like Zenith or Morningstar. Go home. Get some rest, please. Draco said, climbing out of the car and flying away to avoid her retaliation. Valencia drives home, horrified that someone had seen her. Draco didn't seem to know anything about what happened, but he insinuated it. Scarlet had been diplomatic or friendly like Mariposa. A scorned woman tired of being afraid who finally got the power to fight back. Not only to fight back, but to fight for the defenseless. Could she ruin all that for revenge? Riding up the elevator to her apartment, feeling dizzy and confused, she twisted the lock to the studio apartment to find a man sitting in her living room. "Get out!" Valencia demanded. "Sit down, Val," Jordan sighed. Valencia quieted down, wondering how he got into her apartment, but remembered the fire escape. She bit her lip and sat down across from him, sitting on the floor to avoid being next to him. Valencia bit her lip, wondering how he even found out of all people. "You killed the mayor." "I did." "We don't kill, Scarlett. If you do not kill them, they come back and they do it all over again. We need to kill them. We need to improve their reputation so the people will listen to us," Crimson retorts. "If your way worked, your son would be alive. Do not tell me how to protect Nadia." "I cannot tell you how to protect Nadia as your leader." Valencia gritted her teeth. "I thank you, Coach. I'm eternally grateful for you, but your method is not working for me. I can't keep letting these rapists and pedophiles free. I must stop them. Had my son came to me, he would have been alive. He avoided me, feared my perspective, and now he's dead. My advice and guidance could have saved my son. Now I want to save you. I would have done anything to love and support my son. I'm not here to judge you, but must you kill these men? Scarlett is doing it. It's Scarlett." Valencia cried out. "May I speak to her, please?" "Are you sure?" Valencia felt afraid of what Scarlett might do, holding the mask in her hands. "It's a private matter, Valencia. I can handle myself." Crimson smiled brightly. "Okay," Valencia sighed, staring at it for a while. "Are you sure I have to do this, Jordan?" "I must see what happens." Valencia nods, obediently pulling on the mask. Scarlett lashes out, tackling Crimson over the coffee table, knocking down the couch, pinning his throat to the floor. "How did you get into my home?" Scarlett seethes, grinding her teeth as if prepared to use even them as a weapon. "How are you, Scarlett?" Crimson grunts, struggling to breathe. "You came here to hurt me? You're here to protect that mayor?" Scarlett accuses, grabbing a knife hidden as a credit card, folding it into a sharp blade and stabbing at Crimson. Crimson smiled, tickling Scarlett's side, throwing her off guard as she recoils, crackling a smile and lowering her guard. "Why didn't you hit me?" Scarlett snapped, backing away, circling Crimson. "Not every man wants to hurt you, Valencia. Some of us want to love you. You want to talk to that weakling? There is no more Valencia. There is no more Medina. Now there is only Scarlett. Then you can no longer be in the Crimson Elite. I cannot have the kids following your path. This is not the way. Please leave Nadia. Go back to school, but do not stay here making things worse." Scarlett choked, turning up her nose, giving Crimson her back. "If that's all you wanted to say, so be it," Scarlett huffs. "I'll still train you at the gym, or the basement if you wish," Crimson offered. Scarlett's guard dropped, turning around confused. "What?" "What you're doing is necessary, but it's not my vision. I cannot stop you, but I can at least ensure you don't get hurt doing it. We will tell no one, but I can train you in secret," Crimson offers. "Yes, please." Scarlett bows her head. "I apologize for my sudden arrival. I will leave." Jordan Brooks bows his head in apologies. "Please do." Scarlett was shocked at his politeness. "Good evening, Scarlett. Sleep well." Crimson nods, taking off his mask and excusing himself for the door. "Wait," Scarlett calls. "Yes, dear." "Your bandages. Do you need Valencia to change them? Can Scarlett not heal?" "Can Scarlett not heal?" "Valencia heals people. Scarlett kills the corruption. I'll be fine. When Valencia's around, have her call me. When you're ready for training, Scarlett, you know where to find me." "We will reach out to you," Scarlett confirmed. "You two be safe." "And Benita." "You three be safe." Crimson smiles and departs, leaving Valencia to her demons. Scarlett closed the door, locking the 3 locks and all the windows before sleeping. The rest brought no dreams, the only relief from exhaustion. When she awoke, the night sky was still dark. She had to check her phone to realize the date had changed. It had been 2 days. The mask hadn't left her face the entire time. She could tell by the smell. Her body was exhausted, hands bloodied. Her phone was filled with text messages from work asking where she had been this entire time. Her voicemail box was full, ignoring them. Clad in a leather outfit, heading to the window, putting on a lock from the outside with the key in her bra. The front door was triple bolted. Scarlett headed off to the rooftops, bypassing the soldiers, snipers, and other masks. If they had noticed her, they did not interfere. Word traveled quickly in Nadia. The word Scarlett being excommunicated from the mass spread like wildfire, matching the mayor's disappearance. Everyone knew she had done it, and no one dared challenge such a horrific death. Scarlett was one of the 5 who fought Morningstar. Who would dare face her? Scarlett arrived at the sword facility. As she opened the metal hatch, thousands of rats and mice fled out of the small container. Their feces and urine were enough to make Valencia raise her mask. Valencia fled entirely. Given the moment of control, she threw up as she ran and cried until Scarlett put the brakes on Valencia, shoving her hand down her throat and emptying her stomach of bile, then pulled the mask down and walked through the pond of mice and rats into the container with the mayor's destroyed body. "Help me," the mayor whimpered. Scarlett smirked, thinking the flayed corpse had died. Instead, he had been alive and kicking. Scarlett cut him down to the ground. "Will you do your job now?" Scarlett asked. Yes, the mayor cried, the glass still falling from his mouth. "Great," Scarlett cheered in a suddenly giddy and uncharacteristically gleeful charisma, skipping about, cleaning up her things, packing them up, and leaving the mayor to his death. The suited woman laughed hysterically as the swarm of rats returned to their meal. The weakened and deteriorated mayor is fighting for his life against the rats and mice with the taste of flesh, crawling through them with bare bones and exposed muscles against the cold concrete ground. Luckily, the skin above his feet had been gnawed through. He had the soles of his feet. He was chasing after Scarlett to find the exit in a low-speed pursuit. He found Scarlett by the door smoking a cigarette, giving him a nod as if they had been strangers. "Want to take me out again sometime, babe?" Scarlett giggled, blowing him a kiss. The mayor ran like a man possessed, barefooted, naked through the streets. Plenty of people saw him, unable to recognize or identify the skinless man running through the streets, screaming in bloody agony with each step he took. The people of Exigo marveled at finding their mayor running naked through the streets. Behind him was a masked woman whipping him with a belt of water. The sight of Scarlett torturing the man gave way to the women who recognized him, throwing their shoes or stones at him. Soon a crowd gathered, blocking his pathway, screaming, cursing, and pointing down at him as he faced the second most traumatizing experience of his life, right after the first. He curled into the fetal position, facing his public beratement until the crowd grew exhausted. Scarlett had found the crowd before her, sharpening her whip into a spear, and then driving it through his shoulder, delivering her mercy. "Anyone else who stands against rebuilding Nadia, this is your fate." Scarlett declared all-out war, evaporating into water vapor before everyone's eyes as if disappearing into thin air.